No, make us a also, Jawa. Mama cause financial loss to this company.
But boss, also sometimes you do too much. Makato say mugus no mabana so many at.
Shut up. Hey, 50 time I'm a pick or to do lorry station. Now to say I don't lay and let's show you. And then what you the other table so. Now get this trainer mess. Make sure say be free and I will sack you. I'm not joking. Hurry up. Hurry up.
My chicken in now.
Shut up and hurry up.
Hello?
Good afternoon. Yes, my name is Peter Nyameche, calling from the MTN office.
MTN, I didn't know more friend.
Please.
Abotari. Now can me shed antini you? Me poucho. Why? Ye country na yen koni kama.
Why? Oh, won't you phone? Me poucho. The TN say, good news, ma'am. Yes, MTN 4 run a promotion. And now onabane ho. And ewiye no onabane ne edim kunim. Enti ye mau 1,000 Ghana cedis. Eye titis kamo 10 million.
10 million.
Madam, na ansa na ye dis kana beto mu account ni no. Ye won sem bise bi no pese ye bisa o. Se wotimi yi ni nyina no an ye dis kana to mama.
Bi pacho ye mi wa ha.
Me pacho de di kan o full name.
Amabuatima.
Amabuatima. Okay, nice. Yes. Me pacho o date of birth no.
Pacho MTN ni.
MTN no.
MTN dey say me dim wo ho aye say me date of birth so wo.
Who say akonfa draw so. Nti na ye pese ye boa o no. Ti na bi obi antimi wia o.
Okay. My date of birth ni 1st January 1987.
Welcome to the MTN MoMo self-defense class. Attention in class. Now listen, these fraudsters, they think they are so smart, but it's all Azar and Magadre. MTN will only call you with 0244 300,000. MTN will only invite you to the head office if you have participated and won in a promotion that MTN is running. So when you receive any such suspicious calls, call 100. And remember, stay safe, stay vigilant.
Dial
Star 170 hash. Select option 6, wallet, and option 4, report fraud. You can also email mmfraudteam.gh@mtn.com and you can call 100 for subscribers.
MTN.
know what because I know. Also, Jawasa. Where do we mama cause financial loss to this company?
But boss, also times also you did too much. Makato say mugus no mabana so many at.
Shut up. Hey, 50 time I'm a back pick or to do lorry station. Now to say Adunle and let your phone. And then what in the other table so. Now get this trainer mess. Make sure say BB free and I will sack you. I'm not joking. Hurry up. Hurry up.
My chicken in now.
Shut up and hurry up.
Hello?
Good afternoon. Yes, my name is Peter Nyameche, calling from the MTN office.
MTN, I didn't know more friend.
Please.
Abotari. Now can me shed antini you. Me poucho. Why? Ye country na yen kone kama.
Why? Oh, won't you phone? Me poucho. The TN say, good news, ma'am. Yes, MTN 4 running promotion. And now on abaneka ho. And ewiye no wona bono ne edinkunim enti ye maw 1000 Ghana cedis eye titis kamo 10 million.
10 million. Me bacha be wa ha me tie o.
Madam, na ansa na ye diskana beto mu account nim no. Ye won sem bise bi no pese ye bisa o. Se wotimi yi ni nyina no an ye diskana to mama.
Me bacha ye me wa ha.
Me bacha dedi kan o full name.
Amabuatima.
Amabuatima. Okay, nice. Yes. Me bacha o date of birth no.
Bacha MTN.
MTN no.
MTN dey say me dim wo ho ye say me date of birth so wen wo.
Won say akonfa draw so. Enti na yebese ye boa wo no. Ti na bi obi antimi wia o.
Okay. My date of birth ni 1st January 1987.
Welcome to the MTN MoMo self-defense class. Attention in class. Now listen, these fraudsters, they think they are so smart, but it's all Azar and Wagadre. MTN will only call you with 0244 300,000. MTN will only invite you to the head office if you have participated and won in a promotion that MTN is running. So when you receive any such suspicious calls, call 100. And remember, stay safe, stay vigilant.
Dial
Star 170 hash. Select option 6, wallet, and option 4, report fraud. You can also email mmfraudteam.gh@mtn.com and you can call 100 for subscribers.
I'm a Mabu Mugus, I'm a more John.
MTN.
You know what because I know. Also, Jawasa. Where do we mama cause financial loss to this company?
But boss, also times also you did too much. Makato say mugus no mabana so many at.
Shut up. Hey, 50 time I'm a back pick or to do lorry station. Now to say Adunle and let your phone. And then what in the other table so. Now get this trainer mess. Make sure say BB free and I will sack you. I'm not joking. Hurry up. Hurry up.
My chicken in now.
Shut up and hurry up.
Hello?
Good afternoon. Yes, my name is Peter Nyameche, calling from the MTN office.
MTN, I didn't know more friend.
Please.
Abotari. Now can me shed antini you. Me poucho. Why? Ye country na yen kone kama.
Why? Oh, won't you phone? Me poucho. The TN say, good news, ma'am. Yes, MTN 4 running promotion. And now on abaneka ho. And ewiye no wona bono ne edinkunim enti ye maw 1000 Ghana cedis eye titis kamo 10 million.
10 million. Me bacha be wa ha o me tie o.
Madam, na ansa na ye diskana beto mu account nim no. Ye won sem bise bi no pese ye bisa o. Se wotimi yi ni nyina no an ye diskana to mama.
Me bacha ye o me wa ha.
Me bacha dedi kan o full name.
Ama Boatima.
Ama Boatima. Okay, nice. Yes. About your date of birth, no?
But your MTN.
MTN, no.
MTN, dear, send me dimbo. Why send me date of birth to swim?
Who say I confirm draw soon? MTN, you see a boy or no? Send a be obedient to me, you
okay. My date of birth near 1st January 1987.
Welcome to the MTN MoMo self-defense class. Attention in class. Now listen, these fraudsters, they think they are so smart, but it's all Azar and Wagadre. MTN will only call you with 0244 300,000. MTN will only invite you to the head office if you have participated and won in a promotion that MTN is running. So when you receive any such suspicious calls, call 100. And remember, stay safe, stay vigilant.
Dial
Star 170 hash. Select option 6, wallet, and option 4, report fraud. You can also email mmfraudteam.gh@mtn.com and you can call 100 for subscribers.
Wait, my mommy Mugus. Oh, I'm a Mabu Mugus. I'm a more John.
MTN.
No, let me guess. Also, Jawa the way our mama cause financial loss to this company.
But boss, also time so too much. Makato say Mugus no mabana so many at.
Shut up. Hey, 50 time I'm a back picking or to do lorry station. Now to say Adunle and let's show you. And then what in the other table so. Now, get this trainer mess. Make sure say BB free me I will sack you. I'm not joking. Hurry up. Hurry up.
My taking in now.
Shut up and hurry up.
Hello?
Good afternoon. Yes, my name is Peter Nyameche, calling from the MTN office.
MTN, I didn't know more friend.
Please.
Abotari. Now can me shed antini you? Me poucho. Why? Ye country na yen koni kama.
Why? Oh, won't you phone? Me poucho. The TN say, good news, ma'am. Yes, MTN 4 running promotion. And now on abaneka ho. And ewiye no onabo no ne edinkunim enti ye maw 1,000 Ghana cedis eye titis kano 10 million.
10 million. Otie. Me bacha be wa ha o me tie o.
Madam, na ansa na ye dis kana beto mu account ni no. Je won sem bi se bi no pese ebisa o. Se wotimi yi ni nyina no a ni dis kana to mama.
Me bacha yo me wa ha.
Me bacha de di kan wo full name.
Ama Boatima.
Ama Boatima. Okay, nice. Yes. About your date of birth, no?
But your MTN.
MTN, no.
MTN, dear, send me dimbo. Why send me date of birth to swim?
Who say I confirm draw soon? MTN, you see a boy or no? Send a be obedient to me, you are.
Okay. My date of birth near 1st January 1987.
Welcome to the MTN MoMo self-defense class. Attention in class. Now listen, these fraudsters, they think they are so smart, but it's all Azar and Wagadre. MTN will only call you with 0244 300,000. MTN will only invite you to the head office if you have participated and won in a promotion that MTN is running. So when you receive any such suspicious calls, call 100. Remember, stay safe, stay vigilant.
Dial
Star 170 hash. Select option 6, wallet, and option 4, report fraud. You can also email mmfraudteam.gh@mtn.com and you can call 100 for subscribers.
know me kasa sa no. Also jawa se wo. The way mama cause financial loss to this company.
But boss, also times also you did too much. Makato say mugus no mabana so many at.
Shut up. Hey. 50 time I'm a pick or to do lorry station. Now to say adunle and let you fun. And then what in the other table so. Now get this trainer mess. Make sure say be free and I will sack you. I'm not joking. Hurry up. Hurry up.
My chicken in now.
Shut up and hurry up.
Hello?
Good afternoon. Yes, my name is Peter Nyameche, calling from the MTN office.
MTN, I didn't know more friend.
Please.
Abotari. Now can me shed antini you. Me paucho. Why? Ye country na yen kone kama.
Why? Oh, won't you phone? Me paucho. The TN say, good news now. Yes, MTN 4 run a promotion. And now onabane ho. And ewiye no onabane ne edim kunim. Enti ye mau 1,000 Ghana cedis. Yes, it is come 10 million.
10 million. Me pacho be wa ha me tie o.
Madam, na ansa na ye dis kana beto mo account ni no. Ye won sem bi se bi no pese ye bisa o. Se wotimi yi ni nyina no an ye dis kana to mama.
Me pacho ye me wa ha.
Me pacho dey kan o full name.
Amabuatima.
Amabuatima. Okay, nice. Yes. Me pacho o date of birth no.
Pacho MTN ni.
MTN no.
MTN dey say me dim wo ho aye say me date of birth so wo.
Who say akonfa draw so. Enti na ye pese ye boa o no. Se na bi obi antimi wia o.
Okay. My date of birth ni 1st January 1987.
Welcome to the MTN MoMo self-defense class. Attention in class. Now listen, these fraudsters, they think they are so smart, but it's all Azar and Wagadre. MTN will only call you with 0244 300,000. MTN will only invite you to the head office if you have participated and won in a promotion that MTN is running. So when you receive any such suspicious calls, call 100. And remember, stay safe, stay vigilant. Dial star 170 hash. Select option 6, wallet, and option 4, report fraud. You can also email mmfraudteam.gh@mtn.com and you can call 100 for subscribers.
I'm Mabu Mugusu. I'm more John.
MTN.
You know me kasa sa no. Also jawa se wo. The way mama cause financial loss to this company.
But boss, also times also you did too much. Makato say mugus no mabana so many at.
Shut up. Hey. 50 time I'm a pick or to do lorry station. Now to say adunle and let you fun. And then what in the other table so. Now get this trainer mess. Make sure say be free and I will sack you. I'm not joking. Hurry up. Hurry up.
My chicken in now.
Shut up and hurry up.
Hello?
Good afternoon. Yes, my name is Peter Nyameche, calling from the MTN office.
MTN, I didn't know more friend.
Please.
Abotari. Now can me shed antini you. Me paucho. Why? Ye country na yen kone kama.
Why? Oh, won't you phone? Me paucho. The TN say, good news now. Yes, MTN 4 run a promotion. And now onabane ho. And ewiye no onabane ne edim kunim. Enti ye mau 1,000 Ghana cedis. Yes, it is come 10 million.
10 million. Me pacho be wa ha me tie o.
Madam, na ansa na ye dis kana beto mo account ni no. Ye won sem bi se bi no pese ye bisa o. Se wotimi yi ni nyina no an ye dis kana to mama.
Me pacho ye me wa ha.
Me pacho dey kan o full name.
Ama Boatima.
Ama Boatima. Okay, nice. Yes. About your date of birth, no?
That's your MTN.
MTN, no.
MTN, dear, send me dimbo, why send me date of birth to when.
Once I confirm draw soon. MTN, you see a boy, no. Send a be obedient to me, you
okay. My date of birth near 1st January 1987.
Welcome to the MTN MoMo self-defense class. Attention in class. Now listen, these fraudsters, they think they are so smart, but it's all Azar and Wagadre. MTN will only call you with 0244 300,000. MTN will only invite you to the head office if you have participated and won in a promotion that MTN is running. So when you receive any such suspicious calls, call 100. And remember, stay safe, stay vigilant.
Nankawin. Kebe umugu pana.
Dial *170 hash. Select option 6, wallet, and option 4, report fraud. You can also email mmfraudteam.gh@mtn.com and you can call 100 for subscribers.
Wait, my Mami Mugus. Oh, I'm a Mabu Mugus. I'm a more John.
MTN.
Kempinski Hotel, Gold Coast City, Accra. I'll say a short prayer. Welcome to MoMo season 2023. We thank God for a moment like this to gather once again to deliberate on ideas for the good of His people. We pray for another successful stakeholder forum. Amen. I am Emefa Apau. I work with Joy News, Joy FM, and with your kind permission, I'll be your moderator for today. It looks like you have no option but to accept me. So you're welcome and thank you. This year, we seek to address barriers to digital payments adoption in Ghana. We gathered in a similar fashion. Those of you who were here last year, we talked about ECD, and oh boy, it was really successful. And I look forward to this year's encounter as well. We seek to have a higher level discourse amongst top-level executives and captains of the BMI and PSP industry on the successes, challenges, and opportunities in the industry. And the ultimate for us is to influence policy in that direction. So this year, 2023, has been themed as a year of payments. Therefore, we want to delve deeper into the payment space to unravel some of the teething bottlenecks that we all know about, that some will come up as well, that is hampering the adoption of digital payments within the country and possible solutions. Reason why you are here, and I am here. Once again, you're welcome. I must say we are live on the Facebook page of MTN Ghana. We're also live on our YouTube channel. So please, if you're here, it's a good time to take out your phone. This is one of the few moments I'll allow you to take your phone. So please take it out and like and share and spread the word for those who are not here to join us live on Facebook and on YouTube as well. I guess you are done. You're done sharing. Okay. So we are done sharing. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, I will need you to use your hands a lot. Now that your phone is down, once we are required to clap and give a warm welcome to our speakers, please engage me and let's do that. So at this point, I'll call on you again to make welcome the best way we know how. The head of products and services, Mobile Money Limited, MML, Mrs. Sylvia Otue Champong, as she sets the tone for this year's Stakeholder Forum. You're doing it well.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very excited to be here, and I'm sure you are too. When I saw the topic, I was pondering on the word digital. Who knows the tree name for digital? I don't know. Somebody said abefo. And I said, we've used abefo to describe innovation. We've also used it to describe new things. So what is the tree name for digital? I don't know. Maybe Majid will have a present for the person that gets it. We need to live here speaking in digital in the language that we know. So on behalf of the board of directors of Mobile Money Limited, our CEO who could not be here, but he made sure that we've put a good program together for you, I want to especially welcome you to today's session. I am really honored to do the welcome address today. Having been in the space, I've seen digital transformation in this space, also in the GSM space, and how we have all evolved, really, to be where we are today. The question again on my mind is, are we there yet? I'm not sure. We've really made significant progress in digital transaction, but there is still more to do. And that is why today's discussion is so pertinent. Barriers to digital adoption, payment adoption in Ghana. Last year I was here. I was really intrigued when we were talking about the digital currency. The Bank of Ghana did us good by really unpacking it, and I left very satisfied that the only way we can really achieve the kind of inclusion is to have a central point of digital money that would be able to facilitate everything that we do. So my excitement from last year got me to think, and I'm sure most of you also pondered on how we make the ecosystem better for all of us. What also excites me about today is, when you are in the room with innovators, leave us, we will talk about new things. But when you have governance in the room, in the form of the regulators, you check yourself within your dream and see the policies. And it also challenges the regulator in terms of the kind of forward-thinking policies that we need to put together to enhance the growth that we all want to see. And that is the exciting part about the panel, which we'll be seeing later this morning. And I am so happy to see all of them present. We have Mr. Kwame Opong, Head of FinTech and Innovation at Bank of Ghana. He keeps us in check. We also have Mr. Archie Hesse, the GIPS side of our business. He is the he's actually the CEO of Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement Systems. As we all know, it will be GIPS. So we are very excited to see you this morning. On the panel also, we have Mr. Eric Cote, General Manager for Cellulant, one of the fintechs that are doing great things for us. And we also have Madam Winifred Kuten, CEO of Eagles Innovation. I think the last time we met, we were talking about partnerships and how we grow the ecosystem, and she's become a voice in this space, and I'm very happy to also be sharing the stage with these great men and my own lady sitting in for our CEO, who put everything together to make sure we are comfortable today, but unfortunately couldn't be here. Shout out to you, Shaibu. He's watching us. He wants us to make him proud, and we will make him proud. We wish you a speedy recovery, and I know how much you really wanted to be here. One thing I personally connect with Shaibu on is his obsession around customer experience. And he will walk in from time to time and tell me, no, Sylvia, this is not a digital experience. This is a USSD experience on your app. Do something about it. And so he's such a crusader when it comes to really making sure that digital experience is what we are giving to our customers. And that is what keeps all of us awake I'm so happy to have the ESCOM members of MML here today. Our CFO, Susan, please give us a wave. Okay. We also have our head of legal, Papa, who is here. All right. We also have our head of everything, regulatory, AML. If you really want to understand this space and the history of it, Godwin Tamaklo is our man. Thank you. And my colleague, Majid. Majid is the face and the voice of MML. All right, he's waving in the corner there. And Solomon, he keeps us in check with the numbers. Solomon Hayford. All right. So I'm so glad that my colleagues are here to really help us discuss this topical issue of addressing barriers to digital payment adoption in Ghana, which begs the question, are we there yet? So if you remember that movie, I will end with that movie. We all remember the kids didn't know where they were going, so they kept asking. And for me, digital journey, for me, seems like that. Because what seems like the destination today becomes a discovery that you have to keep on discovering in the digital space. So I'm very happy to be here, and I'm sure you are. And a warm welcome from all of us to you. Please relax and let's debate on how we can actually improve these barriers and be able to open up a bit more. And we are also expecting lots of participation. Also for you online, please send in the questions. Those here, prepare the questions, and let's make it more interactive and fun. So again, welcome to this year's Stakeholder Forum. Thank you.
Ladies and Sue Champong, Head of Products and Services, Mobile Money Limited. Is that all you can do for her? Thank you so much. That can only specially be spoken by her. Ladies and gentlemen, let's receive the talent of Miss Abnasewa Kranche with a spoken word.
Emane mema essential for amoaha mema munyina kwaba mema munyina tnase ya sanya beshemu said afibia ya no no MoMo stakeholders Edi jumede bi esi on ani so say ebeboa o man kan kro o man ye yo enchi madachi ya botaye ni se akwasidie biara ebesi abefu fidi anu idie ye behwe ni esiesie so that we address the barriers to digital payment adoption in Ghana. Ameria se afane nyina atienka na ya hwehwe mu a na wosi enyankofobia omunimde na omuwosu ehunu na omakwadre sa ensem yi mu enyankofo ni raso wo mu Na man say ni momo. Na omo ne hwan. Alright. Sylvia Otu Echampo. Alright, Eric Corti. Madame Winifred Corti. Alright, Archie Hesse. I need your trap so. Bear men yon for. Alright, Kwame upon. Yamamuna Tase. Yasan so Emma Kwaba. Yadama Sene Mada Jie. Omuni eba bedi in Sawoso. Nyasha Kwaya ya befaso. Esinye meyano kwine. Amayenfa hudie. Momo payment and sada geo. Yo. I don't need bedroom. Say in your yam for Ibekasa. Omo Bekasa. I don't need bedroom. Caso. But that's it.
Thank you, Miss Crunchy, for that spoken word. Once again, we thank you, Madam Sylvia Otue Champong. So there are others that I would want to quickly acknowledge. And of course, I see the CEO of the Ghana Telecoms Chamber, Dr. Kenneth Ashibe. Welcome. Once again, we're live on MTN Ghana, on Facebook, and also on YouTube. We also have in our midst the Chief Capital Projects Officer, Mr. William Tete. Can we see you? Wow. We also have the Chief Corporate Services Officer, Ajua Riafe. Thank you. I also like to acknowledge the presence of Chief Internal Audit and Forensics Officer of MTN, Mr. Michael Bewonyo. Okay. We also have the Head of Finance, Mobile Money Limited, Susan Yorsen. I'm doing this in no particular order, so please bear with me. We also have the Head of Legal and Regulatory Affairs, Mobile Money Limited, Mr. Papa say. Did I add Mr. to Papa? That's an abomination. Papa say, thank you. We also have the Head Business Intelligence and Analytics, Mobile Money Limited, Solomon Hayford. I have the Acting Chief Enterprise Business Officer, Mr. Daniel Asari. And I'll do so as we go along, and I see you as well. So welcome once again. And we'll go on at this point, it looks like without speaking much, like Madame Sylvia said, we are hoping to delve deeper into things today. And in furtherance of that, the finest in the industry have been empaneled to do justice to the issue at hand. And the ultimate is to influence policy in that direction. And of course, we have our distinguished audience as well, and I can't wait for your input. And we've been charged to be very interactive. I can also tell you that there are gifts. It's not just for those who can identify digital. She tells me there are a lot of gifts today if you participate. So I'll zoom straight into our very first speaker for today, and he will be highlighting the fintech perspective. Our very first speaker has many, many years in the fintech digital payments industry as well as finance. A results-oriented and dynamic business leader that makes it all happen also beautifully amidst the hardest of challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, with a warm welcome, please, let's welcome the General Manager, Cellulant Ghana, Mr. Eric Cote.
Thank you very much, MFR. And thank you, everyone, for having me. A very good morning to everyone as well. Okay. So I will be taking us through the theme for this morning and this year's MoMo Stakeholder Forum, which is addressing the barriers to digital payment adoption in Ghana. Okay, so I'll be looking at 4 main areas. First, the journey so far, and I believe that Sylvia has done justice to that, so I'll just spend less than a minute on that. And then we will look at some macroeconomic data from the Bank of Ghana, after which I'll delve deeper into the main theme, which is the barriers, and then how we will be able to address it. After which, finally, I'm going to talk on the fintech perspective. So, okay, so the journey so far. Digital payments in Ghana has been marked by significant advancement over the years, starting from primarily a cash-based economy, of which we know Ghana is. The country has made substantial strides in adopting digital payment solutions that are driven by the technological innovations within the fintech space, within the telecommunication space, as well as regulatory support from the Bank of Ghana, the fintech office, and then changing consumer behaviors. We are all consumers in one way or the other. Over the years, especially towards the end of the 20th century, we've seen that digital payments in Ghana have actually increased. Today, I mean, you are able to make payments on all mobile apps, irrespective of whether it is being powered by the fintech or by the telecommunications industries themselves. This was not the case before the early 20s or 2000s. Looking at the economic data, and this is an extract from the Bank of Ghana. Looking at mainly the mobile money aspect. Digital channels, we have the cards payment, but this data, I'm only looking at the mobile money aspect. And looking also between 2 years. So I take June 2021 to June 2023, just 2 months ago. Now, if you look at the top left, we are saying that registered mobile money accounts in millions actually increased by 34.8% between June 2021 to June 2023. 44.3 million increasing to 59.7 million. But then there is also a worrying trend. Out of these registered mobile money accounts, you can see the next below it is the active mobile money account. And these active mobile money accounts in June 2021, out of the 44.3, the active was 17.2 million. Again, if you look at June 2023, out of the 59.7 million, the active was 22.1 million. So I dare say that, yes, if you look at the active, it has increased in absolute numbers, right? It has increased by 28%, however, at a decreasing rate. Meaning, if you look at 2021, June 2021, 17.2 million, a ratio of that to the total registered account, that was 38.8%. Fast forward to June 2023, if you look at out of the 59.7 million, only 22.1, and that is 37%. So yes, we are increasing, but not at an increasing rate. And that sets the tone for my presentation. What are we getting wrong? Just as Sylvia said, are we there yet? And my daughter used to sing this to me. Are we there yet? Not yet. You know, are we there yet? Not yet. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us delve deeper into the barriers as I have identified here. The first is increased rate of online fraud and the fear of losing your money. In recent times, cases of mobile money or bank fraud have tripled. Per engagement with few stakeholders in the banking industry, in the telecommunication industry, at least one subscriber or customer fall prey to this online fraud. And several customers actually want to discontinue the use of digital payment. They would rather want to make payments in cash because of the fear of being defrauded. It does not only happen to those that are less literate, right? It happens to all of us. Could you imagine? Sometimes I'm being called, and with my knowledge in this space, in the digital payment space, still people want to defraud me. How much more those that are less literate? It must also be seen that micro and small merchants, as well as low-income earners, of which you are not part, they have very limited, in fact, less appetite for financial risk. They don't want to joke with it. And again, I can cite some examples, right? Sometimes, if a transaction should even fail, and then you want to call the person, my customer service guys, the way they get insults for as low as maybe 10 cedis, they are insulted. Are you trying to defraud me? The payment has failed, and payment failing point can be several factors, right? We even want to return the person's money to him, but then you will get insults. So you can see that we individuals generally have very, very low appetite for financial risk. To address this, what are some of the things that, in my view, can be done? There should be more education through the PSPs. And the PSPs are made up of the telecommunication, the dedicated money issuers, as well as some of us who are enhanced, and then the fintechs. Also, implementing strong security measures. And in the view of the Bank of Ghana, the regulator, before you even be licensed, you need to be PCI DSS certified. You need to be ISO 27001 certified. These are measures that, when they are in place, will help resolve some of these fraudulent activities. Also, the management, there should be measures and systems that are put in place to ensure that there is dispute resolutions. Dispute resolutions, this is very, very important, because, you know, this whole drive towards digitization actually is based on trust. So how can an individual in the rural area, even individuals such as us, be able to trust that when I make payment digitally, and even if it fails, companies like Cellulant, MTN will be able to return their monies to them. So trust is very key. The next barrier that I identified is accessibility and smartphone penetration. Now, if you had listened to Sylvia, she made mention by saying that Shaibu will always say, let us move from USSD, you know, let the platform be digitally inclined. Now, digitization, as we know, goes with smartness, smartphones. 2G phones, unfortunately, do not support the innovations that these fintechs are bringing up. So although the country has made significant progress in increasing access to digital financial services. A good proportion of Ghanaians do not have access to or are unable to participate in what is available. Also, digital payment mostly goes hand in hand with smart devices, just as I had mentioned. Completely adopting digital payment with a feature phone does pose a big challenge to where we want to go with digital payments in Ghana. Hence, people, especially in the rural and remote areas, will find it very convenient sticking to their old ways. And what is their old ways? Again, trust. They can trust the monies that are in their pocket. So there are some measures that I have outlined here, which I believe that will help with accessibility and then smartphone penetration. The first is the smartphone accessibility. There should be more collaboration with the MNOs, mobile network operators, such as yourself, MML, right? And then some of the fintechs. Now, what we have done in our space as Cellulant, okay, and I believe that most of the fintechs, that is what they've been doing, is to ensure that we buy mobile phones, smartphones, for these merchants that we activate. We buy them mobile phones, and not just a 2G phone, but a smartphone. I believe that we can partner with you, MML, and all other MNOs to be able to drive this. Also, expanding mobile network coverage and infrastructure development can increase access to smartphones and reliable internet connectivity. Could you imagine that somewhere in Western North, it is actually very, very difficult for you to even have access to signals. So we spend money, we do activations, people go there, we get merchants from Accra who have branches there, we go there to activate them. But then, with all the monies that we've spent up to today, we've not even been able to recover it. The ROI was maybe about 6 months, but I tell you, it can be more than 3 years for us to recover the monies that we spent activating them, just because there is no accessibility. The people there cannot, even for them to connect to MTN, let me use MTN as an example, they need to connect to a third party who has his connection there before they can get MTN. So that is a problem. We will not achieve the full adoption that we want if we do not have these infrastructure in place. The next is to expand the network of mobile money agents. And the MNOs, this is for you, because you have been driving this. We need to be able to extend it to rural areas. Now, I can also tell you from experience that there is so much value, especially when you go to the mining areas. The mining areas, we have some form of businesses there that we are powering. But then the challenge is that the adoption rate is very low. How can we introduce innovative products such as Cash Mop Up? And this can only be done also between the technological, the Chamber of Technology, or which you are an umbrella body, and then the fintechs, the Chamber of the payment service providers. Yeah. We need to also collaborate with local businesses to offer incentives. And these incentives can be in the form of discounts, it can be loyalty programs, and this will encourage adoption. Then finally on this page is to be able to create consumer awareness program, which will also increase the awareness and then let people be more accessible. The next is transaction charges. And here it is very, very important. I know the regulator is here, and then people from the government side as well. But then it is very, very important. Digital payment adoption in Ghana will be heavily boosted when transaction fees are tiered in favor of rural communities. Why do I say this? To those of us in this room and to very few Ghanaians, few in the sense that if you look at the masses, those that are poor, they are many, right? They are many. So you may think that this is just a 1%, maybe capped, but they feel it, right? If we want adoption, if we want to increase the adoption, it will be good for us to have a tiered billing or a fees, so that geographically, if we realize that, okay, these transactions are coming from maybe this particular place, which we believe are the poor areas, then those pricing can be very low. Sometimes we make the mistake by thinking that Accra, Kumasi, Takoradi is Ghana. Unfortunately not, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately not. So even when you look at fintechs such as ourselves, when we introduced the in-store proximity pay product, we realized that yes, Accra, Kumasi is a big choke, and then we went around. There are places where you go, the fintechs that we are seeing in Accra are non-existent. So everyone is working at where they will be able to get results. But we need to, if we want adoption, we need to be able to venture into almost all the 16 regions in Ghana. So, excuse me, let me come here and then talk about how to address the issue of transaction charges. To address it, one, I know this is a very sensitive area, but I'll still say it. Kwame, do I have your permission? Thank you. So, two main things, guys. What we need to do is, one, to address the issue of e-levy rate. The government has listened, and then in February this year, I think they reduced it to 1%. But then, as I mentioned, there is still the need. There is still the need to, if we want digital adoption in Ghana, there is still the need to reduce it further. And when this is done, you will see that many people, the adoption that we want, will be able to achieve it. Also, the MNOs, such as yourself, MML, you must be able to give some of us, the fintechs, competitive rates. Because Shabu is not here, I'm throwing that challenge to you, Sylvia, to pick this up for us. You know, just as I had mentioned, we have been supporting the drive for digitization. We are in places where ordinarily the banks may not go, but then we are driving. And if it becomes very expensive for us, then we will also, remember any price that you are giving us, we are going to add on. So please, and please, this one I'm standing in for all the fintech companies, those that are here and not, for you to do something about it for us if we want to drive that. Then also the fear of increased tax liabilities. This is also very topical. It is often argued that people actually do not want to pay taxes. Is it true? I'm throwing it to you, the audience. Is it true? Oh, so we all want to be compliant. That's good. Now, one of the things that we've noticed is that, and I will use a typical case of Cellulant, right? There are instances that we've gone to sell our product to people, and then they will say, okay, we are okay, send us the SLA, you do everything, and then 2 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, you go back and they said, oh, your platform is too transparent, right? You are showing everything, every transaction you are showing. We are afraid that the government, I mean, you know, through this digitization agenda, they will see the revenues that we are making and then charge us more. Is it a case that the government shouldn't do that? No. But all we are saying is that if government really wants to drive this agenda, then they need to institute tax incentives. Again, it can be tiered, but they need to institute tax incentives to drive that, to allow people to be able to do what? To go for it, to use digital payment platforms. The next is also the speed of transactions and payment failures. Success rates are determined both by the strength of the internet connection as well as the number of interoperability between solution providers, and can be a big hindrance or impediment to adoption. In cases of payment failures, where a payment is deducted from a customer's account but does not end up in the merchant's account, it creates some form of problems. It unnerves the customer, because why should you deduct, let's say you are buying pizza, and for this I'll use one of the, let's say from Pizza Man, Papa's Pizza, or anywhere, and then you've made payment, yet still your pizza wasn't delivered. How would you feel? You may call them, you may even go on social media and write all manner of things. So success rate is very key, and this particular point goes for us as the fintechs and then the MNOs. We are saying that to be able to do this, digital platforms or applications should be very robust, very, very robust, to ensure that the uptime is being maintained. Also, there should be effective communications between the MNOs, and again, I'll use the MML. So there are times, it is not always the case, but there are times that your third-party platforms may be down. Maybe the MAD API, it may be down, but your main 170 is working. Now, what happens is that practically, this is very practical, what happens is that if the fintechs are unable to serve the merchant, they will say that your platform is, let's say my platform is 234. Okay, the Think platform, which is 234. They will say that, oh, you are always having downtime, and they will move towards you. But remember that there is an principal-agent relationship between us, right? We are aggregating for you. So as much as possible, what you need to do is that there should be effective communications, so that if the downtimes is going to be prolonged, we can either take the service off, so that when you are buying your ticket, your airline ticket, or you are making rides to maybe boat, or it will not be there. Even that payment option will not be there. It is very, very important. The more we are having downtimes, what is, in effect, it is going to kill that trust in our systems. Now, as a fintech company, this is where I will drive most of my strength towards the issues or that are causing the barriers. What can we do as fintechs? So we play a very crucial role in addressing the barriers. And here are some of the things that we do or we can do in order to ensure that we address these barriers. One, campaign awareness. Campaign awareness. We need to be able to drive targeted awareness campaign through our various channels. It can be through the media, communities, for instance, community meetings. Now, I dare say, in which palace, maybe it's a question to all of us, which of the palaces in Ghana is digitally inclined? Anyone here? Which of the palaces in Ghana is digitally inclined that they accept digital payments? So it is one of the 10. In order to increase adoption, we need the community leaders. We need them. If they buy into it, yes. The chief palace. Yes. Thank you for that. Yeah, so when you go to the castles, yes, they accept MoMo. right? They accept MoMo, they accept some form of digital payment. But I'm asking of the Chief's Palace. If you know, I can maybe give you something. Anyway, so we need to create awareness. And by creating awareness, as I did mention, we need to involve some of these community leaders. Also, having some form of an incentive programs. It is very key. In order to create adoption, you need to incentivize people. You need to incentivize them. So, for instance, I know most PSPs are doing that. In addition to the margin that we are getting from the MNOs, we also give some out in order to create adoption. And I think this is something that we should all embrace. Also, coming out with customized solutions, developing tailor-made solutions to solve specific needs is very, very key. Tailor-made solutions to solve specific needs. So are we coming out with innovative products that will solve the needs of, let's say, those in insurance, that will solve the agriculture, fish farming? Are we coming out with innovative products? Is very, very key. Also, localized payment solution. We need to develop payment apps and platforms that cater to the local languages. And I'm happy when Sylvia was here again, she did mention, and if you know, I think I was the one who said that before, so I'm still waiting. Yeah, and you know, when you listen to, sometimes when you call the customer service line, they will say, for English, press 1. Upetria, miamienu. Do you get my point? Those we should do some of these jingles to be able to be relatable within the space. The truth of the matter is that tree kind of look very simple to understand. So if we can get more of those. Also, we need to also develop user-friendly interfaces. Some of the interfaces are very difficult for those that are not literate. Okay, so it needs to be user-friendly. So designing an intuitive and user-friendly interfaces for digital payment apps can make them more approachable for individuals who are not tech-savvy. Also, feedback mechanism. Those in the fintech space, we pride ourselves as having the best feedback system. We work 24/7. The MNOs sometimes close at 5, 6, isn't it? But then we work 24/7. It means that anytime you have issues and you reach out to the fintech, you will get a solution. You get someone to pick your calls. And in the case of companies such as Cellulant, where we are a Pan-African business, we use the support of both the in-country team as well as at the group level. So anytime you have issues, you can reach out and then we'll be able to support. Also, being mindful of the fact that most people, even though mobile smartphones are available, most people still use feature phones. We need to be able to develop offline products, digital products, that runs on the USSD. Because USSD, when you are using feature phones, it will still work, right? When you dial your star 170, it will still work. When you dial your 234, it will still work, and others. Also, merchant advancement. We should be able to encourage businesses, especially vendors, to adopt digital payment solutions by offering them, as I did mention, incentives. And then also the ninth one is to create agent network. Agent network, not only for Accra, Kumasi, Takoradi, the cities, no. They should be able to go down. We should incentivize them. They should be able to go down to rural areas, the underserved and unserved areas. And we believe that when this is done, it will drive adoption. Finally, there should be a simplified registration process. I believe that the Bank of Ghana last year, around July, simplified the KYCs. They did simplify the KYCs. Initially, those of us as fintech, we were treating the enterprise merchants, the tier 1 merchant, and then the tier 3, which are the long tail merchants. We were treating them the same. So a tall list of KYC. But since last year when the Bank of Ghana, through the FinTech office, brought those guidelines, it has simplified it. So we need to even simplify it, the more to increase adoption. So ladies and gentlemen, maybe let me just steal just 1 minute of your time. This is, as a FinTech, I need to market my product. So, so when you see Cellulant, just as I was introduced by MFA, Cellulant, anytime you see Think, it is our product, just as MML is for MTN, mobile money, yes. So Think products, and you can see this nice interface, right? This is technology. This is innovation. The world in your palm. And you'll be able to access our platform. If you become a merchant, one of the ways that we are driving adoption, if you become a merchant today, those of you here, you will be able to help us with digitization, driving adoption across board. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And he will be back. I see that you already have a number of questions. I have two, but he will be back shortly, and then you can ask all your questions. But I need owners of these vehicles. I know most of you don't know the numbers of your vehicles, but please try. GR 824222. Please, if that's your vehicle, I need you to move it now for me. I also need you GE 750021 and then GT 139020. Wow, people know the account numbers. Nice. Please move it for me, okay? The color. I know, we are in this together. But please try and check for me, and then I need you to move that. So imagine getting rewarded for doing something you already do every single day. Sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? Well, that's exactly what happens during MoMo season. And I have experienced it, and I need you to experience that too. There's something for everyone during MoMo season. All you need to do is to download the MoMo app on Play Store or App Store. I know most of you have it. If you have it, I think you can show it to me. Do you have MoMo app on your phone? I do. I tried to do it before showing you my PIN. And that's what we are asking you to avoid, showing people your PIN. So once you have it, all you need to do is to have your transactions on it all the time. So maybe I can give you my number to test. So you can send me the MoMo, and then you will win. So as part of it, all you need to do is to try and use your MoMo app day to day. When you send it, you will win. So you don't lose anything if you send me the money. MTN will give it back to you. So make sure you use your MoMo app all the time. Merchants, you are also not left out. All you need to do is to receive and send, and then you will get it. So it's a MoMo season, just MoMo it with MoMo Pay. Make sure you use the app all the time. And I must also acknowledge our 21 bank partners that make it possible. Maybe we should give them a round of applause at this point. Thank you so much for making it happen. As we go along, I would let you know about them. So we zoom straight into the second session at this point so that we can have a lot of time for interaction and your questions, which I know they are ready. So to give us the business side, we've had the fintech side of things. So for the business side of things, I have the pleasure of inviting a woman with many sides. He's a seasoned technology and innovations business leader with a passion to build capacity and empower professionals for the emerging digital economy and the AI-powered industry that's upon us. Those of you who are into the ChatGPT and the Binks, she knows it all and will take us through it. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the CEO of Eagle Innovations, Madame Winifred Kuting.
Good morning. Very excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me, MTN Mobile Money team. I'm very excited to share my perspective for addressing barriers to digital payments adoption in Ghana. My name is Winifred, and looking forward to continue the conversations with everyone. All right, so my presentation, I'm just going to look at 2 challenges and suggested solutions, and then we can move on to the next speaker. But before I do that, I have a Saved by MoMo story. So I want to ask you, do you have a Saved by MoMo story? All right, so I'll share mine first. So one fine evening, I decided to take a walk with a 5-year-old. And as we were walking in the neighborhood, she decided she needed to go biscuit shopping at a corner shop, what we typically call corner shop. That's a merchant's place in the neighborhood. Unfortunately, as we progressed, I realized I did not have a purse, I did not have any money. The intent was to go for a walk and not to go for shopping, as you can imagine. So when we entered the shop, I asked the merchant, do you accept mobile payments? And she said, no, I don't. Suddenly, I was stuck with a problem, but given that I love to solve problems naturally, I had to find a solution on my feet. So there was another shopper there. I greeted her and asked her, please, do you have mobile money on your phone? And she said yes. So I asked, can I send you 10 Ghana cedis, and then you give me 10 cedis in cash? And she agreed graciously. At the end of the day, I was able to fulfill the request of the 5-year-old, saved by MoMo. And I hope you also have your Saved by MoMo stories we can share after the session. All right, so what barriers can we take down so users can experience the utopia of digital payments? When Sylvia spoke, she said, are we there yet? And we all said no. So what is the there that we are hoping to get to? For me, I call it the utopia, the state of perfect happiness for anyone in the ecosystem, either a user, a merchant, an innovator, or a financial services provider. The barriers to digital payments adoption, in my perspective, are in 2 forms. The first one I would want us to look at is the knowledge barrier. A significant percentage of our customer base, as Eric had also shared, are not in the category to fully appreciate the value we create. The value we create is way more than the customers can appreciate because of the inherent problems we have as a nation. So first and foremost, I want us to look at the literacy rate. Unfortunately, I don't think we have people from the educational sector in our midst, but if we do, literacy is a very important feature for anything innovative we do, especially given that a lot of what we produce is based on the English language, which is not the default first language of most Ghanaians. If we talk of literacy rate, we are talking about the basic ability to read, write, and understand English. And from the last census report in 2021, the Ghana Statistical Services said we were 70% literacy rate in the country was 70%, meaning that we still have a good 30% that are not covered. The next I would want us to look at is understanding of basic ICT skills, which is called the digital literacy rate. So going back to digital, once again, we don't even have the indigenous language for digital, but when we look at basic use of technology products, services, ability to understand what an app is saying so that we can engage with it, what percentage of our population is covered? The next I want us to look at is the financial literacy rate. According to the last S&P report, which has also been accepted by the Chartered Institute of Bankers, they said our financial literacy rate, I think the Bank of Ghana can collaborate this, is 32%. Honestly, for financial products like digital payments, that's woefully inadequate. because it means we have a good 70% of the population who cannot understand basic things: debit, credit, opening balance, closing balance, dates, even the essence of a date on the notifications that are received. So that is still a big barrier we need to overcome. And the last is, how many people can use digital payment products without assistance? I'm sure we've all had to be in situations where we needed to help someone else use the digital payment products we have today. That tells us something. Immediately you need to support someone to use a product. It's either the person cannot use it by themselves, it introduces a lot of problems, or the product is too advanced. So I think when Eric was speaking, he mentioned usability and simplifying the user interfaces. We can do all of that, but once we have literacy, IT skills, financial literacy as a blocker, there's not much we can do on the usability front as technology people. The effects of this knowledge barrier on adoption of digital payments is very, very huge. We can spend a lot of money, but the ROI will still not come because the base to adopt it is too small for us. First, there's lack of confidence to use the product. We have seen that, and there are trust issues. And then it opens up an unlimited opportunity for fraud and criminality. I can assure you, all the fraud and criminality that happens, most of the people who are victims are people who suffer from the knowledge challenges I mentioned. Those of us in this room would never fall victims to that on an ordinary day. Let me add a caveat. Because we are literate in all the 4 spaces I mentioned. And ultimately, this leads to a lot of customer dissatisfaction and a reduction in the product uptake. So how can we solve for this? We need to be very innovative, collaborate, and effective in designing educational strategies and execute them in a way that would give us the results we seek. First and foremost, we need to understand that we are dealing with a predominant population who are not literate in terms of English, in terms of technology usage, in terms of finance. So how can we reach out to them? We need to use easy to relate tools and mediums so that they would be able to take advantage of the knowledge we share. And we need to think of mass education, so community-based education, not just one audio that goes to one person. Let's look at opportunities where we can have a lot of mass education. Some examples are looking at interactive workshops and demonstrations, picture-based guides. I think we've seen some of the churches use it. When I was a child and I used to go to Sunday school, there was picture-based education whenever they wanted to share the salvation message, which made it relatable for people who were not literate in terms of English. And then we can also think a lot around community-based learning programs, role-playing and storytelling through acting. A lot of times people can understand drama or a sketch, but then if it was presented in a lot of ways like I do, it would be a lot more difficult. In fact, I've seen a lot of people use WhatsApp audio to transact businesses, even though they can't read and write. So the audio feature is something that has been developed to help people communicate, and we can all take advantage of using other mediums of communication besides text to drive education. And then we can also look at local champions. I think Eric also mentioned that. And this is a continuous process. It's not a one solution, one time kind of problem, solution we are thinking of. This has to consistently happen each year so that we would make sure that these knowledge barriers can be effectively addressed. And then also collaborating with the state, because primarily education should be carried out by the state for its citizens so that businesses can develop services and solutions that sit on top of the educational needs we have as a country. The next barrier I'd want us to look at is the absence of innovative value-added services for retention. One key point Eric mentioned again was the inactivity ratios after the onboarding has been done. So anytime you have such staggering numbers of inactivity, it tells you something. You're wasting your efforts. Because if you put in a lot to acquire and the retention rate is so low or usage is so low, it means we have a lot of money down the drain. We need to put in a lot more effort to ensure activity is high and maintained, at least at par with the onboarding processes we have. And for me, the category of user class of interest is around merchants. In Ghana, we have an emerging micro, small, and medium enterprise growth happening at the moment. How can we address this user base? Because you see, most of them do not fall in the category of the knowledge barrier, but then we can get volumes and retention from that category of users. One interesting background is that in Africa, many MSMEs, or we like to call them merchants in our space, are successfully selling digitally without e-commerce websites. So for those of us who shop on Amazon and have lived out of the country, our experience with e-commerce is vastly different from what pertains to the ordinary merchants here. And this process happens in three forms for us. The initial products discovery and interactions happens on social media. Order is fulfilled using third-party fulfillment agents, and then digital payments come through for payment acceptance. So it's a very fragmented process, unlike the full experience you would have, for instance, if you were shopping on Amazon. This opens up a lot of problems. First is the productivity issues the merchants face. They need to spend several hours tracking payments from transaction alerts, resolving order-related problems. There's a lot of frustrations, as you can see this man's face. Difficulty tracing payments made when volumes are a lot. You need to make so many calls to find out who has bought, who has paid, who hasn't received an order. On a personal basis, it is a nightmare for some of us when you attempt to shop from some merchants because they can't seem to track your payments made. And you need to send screenshots. Please show by hands those who have had to send screenshots of your payments to confirm proof of order. That's a very common problem. And this experience will not be with you if you were shopping on an Amazon, for instance. And then there's also the reconciliation problem. So all financial transactions always come with reconciliation. However, when the transaction is digitized so that the party selling and the party receiving are not in one space, the reconciliation problems are multiplied. And that opens up a door for a lot of fraudulent issues to come up. We also have the customer management challenges. And then lastly, for our merchants in this space, we are also not able to provide them enough reports and insights on their businesses. So what happens because of this? As the transaction volume continues to grow, the merchant would now realize that it may be better to have a physical shop and direct their customers to the physical place. So they move from digital to physical. We go back to the shops, and then the acceptance of cash becomes preferred compared to digital channels. And ultimately, it will lead to a decrease in our digital payments usage and adoption. So what can we do to solve this problem? Once again, we can look at innovative value-added services to increase retention and reduce the inactive rates. First and foremost, I want us to think of digital financial payments as a layer for innovation. We've done a lot of work for a long time. I started in 2009, 2010, and we've made significant progress. But for the progress we have made, in line with the needs of the nation around the SME growth, What can we do to move forward so that we can retain the value we have achieved so far? We have basic e-commerce services that we can develop on top of this infrastructure we have created. Things like merchant discovery, product discovery, inventory management, order management, shopping cart services, and then checkout services are layers we need to build on top of the digital payments we have. And then we also need to think around collaborations and partnerships to unlock a lot more value. First, MFA mentioned data and AI is one of the areas of innovations that is really delivering a lot of value for technology companies. So what are some of the places we can use data and AI? We can increase access to credits for merchants because we sit on a lot of valuable data. We can provide analytics and reporting for our merchants. We can help them with marketing and promotion services, and then collaborate with logistics company for the needs we have over there. And then for customers who are wondering, can we trust a merchant? Is a merchant behaving badly? We can provide avenues for merchant and product reviews and ratings. In conclusion, let us use digital payments as the digital economic infrastructure for growth in Ghana by realizing the potential it has, innovating around the existing barriers, and collaborating effectively to deliver value-added services. Before I take my seat, I would like to also introduce you to Eagle Innovations. We provide tailored technology-enabled innovations for businesses and organizations that are seeking growth in these dynamic times, and especially in the digital economy. So kindly engage with us when you need to. Thank you so much, and wishing everybody a happy 2023 MoMo season.
Thank you so much, Madam Winifred Kotain, CEO of Eagle Innovations. And so far, we know the barriers to take down, the knowledge barrier, using payments without assistance, reconciliation concerns. But whilst she was speaking, I tried also to reach my paramount chief for Amfuega, STAKEHOLDER, to find out if his palace is digitized. I haven't been able to reach him yet, but I don't know if there are any chiefs or traditional authority or rulers in here. We can imagine now we can pay for our land via MoMo. But do the gods accept MoMo? We'll find out. Oh, we have a traditional ruler there. They do, eh? They accept. Oh, wow, the gods have gone digital. Nogopo is digital. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see about that. So there's a lot to take in at this point. We'll get ready for our third speaker, but I'll allow you, my production team would allow you to also call your chief, and let's see how we can, digitalize their palaces, amongst others. We know we have to expand mobile networks. These are things that will chew upon as well, collaboration with businesses, and I know you're getting your questions ready. Those of us who are on Facebook and YouTube, I see your questions. I've started harvesting them. So once you share the link with others, they can also share with us, then we can take their questions as well. So we have a small jingle for you, a quick breather, then we get ready for our third speaker.
Just in some points, Momo Pay, or you say Momo app. Send with ease and win big. You be merchant or you be Momo user. Momo season Abanti, send the Bibia. Send the Bibia. Momo season Abanti, send the Bibia. Send the Bibia.
From now till the end of September, earn points when you download the Momo app and make Momo Pay transactions to a merchant via either the QR code or merchant ID. And the Momo app, transact with Momo Pay, and get rewarded this Momo season. TNCs apply.
MTN.
It's the best season of the year. Just in some points, Momo Pay, or you say Momo app. Send with ease and win big. You be be merchant or you be Momo user. Momo season Abanti, send the Bibia. Send the Bibia. Momo season Abanti, send the Bibia.
From now till the end of September, endpoints when you download the MoMo app and make MoMo Pay transactions to a merchant via either the QR code or merchant ID and stand the chance of winning 1,000 Ghana cedis weekly and other amazing prizes. Our merchants are not left out. Receive payment and win. There are lots and lots of exciting prizes to be won. So download the MoMo app, transact with MoMo Pay and get rewarded this MoMo season. TNCs apply.
MTN. Thank you so much. This is MoMo season and it's our stakeholder forum for the year 2023. I must say that the cameraman has already given me MoMo. So, I sent it to you. That's why you're taking the pictures. Okay. Well, you can also do same. Use your MoMo Pay and get rewarded by MTN. Now we get into our third session and then we can get interactive as well. Our third speaker is the man that was tasked to lead the transformation of the entire country into an electronic paying one. What a task. But we all agree that he has definitely executed to the best of his ability together with his team. Many know him as Mr. eSwitch. Some know him as GH Link. This man has over the years built a career in IT transformation, initiatives, logistics, projects, and business development. Now, if you have questions also about Rolls-Royce or BMW Mini, he has answers for you, but that's for another day. Now, to give us the GIPS perspective, ladies and gentlemen, with a round of applause, you're doing good. Let's welcome the Chief Executive of the Ghana Interbank Payments and Settlement System, Mr. Achihese.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I have to apologize. I was not informed that I had to give a presentation, but I'll do my very best to remember as much as we have contributed to the digital payments landscape in the last 16 years in the country. I remember when the whole journey started, somewhere 2007, looking around, I'm grateful that there are lots of youth around here. I wonder how old you were. But before I even start, I'd like to commend MTN for putting up such an initiative. I think we need a lot more of these initiatives to address the digital payments requirements in the country. I'm also grateful to see my good friend Ken. We have battled in this journey for a long time. I think our paths crossed when you were at Metro. And Ken really supported me along this journey. I remember when they used to call me the media man because I was always on the media communicating, trying to educate, and everything I could talk about was payment systems. But I'm grateful for where we are now as a country. As we travel around the world, I think together, Ghana where we are, it's something that we can all be very proud of. 2007 was when the journey really started, and before then, when we talk about payment systems, all we knew in Ghana was checks. I think Visa, MasterCard was not even in existence, and the banks had a few proprietary cards, and that was it. And as you've realized, Ghana at that time was predominantly cash-based. That's all we knew. And the central bank rightly realized that there was a need for them to address this particular issue. They were also mindful of their limitations, that payment systems was gravitating towards IT. And although payment systems is the sole responsibility of the central bank, the prerequisites, the necessary skills were not there. And worldwide, the trend happens to be that a wholly owned subsidiary or banks were asked to form a company to oversee the development and the rollout of all these payment systems. And I really want to commend the central bank that for taking that initiative in 2007. And the first thing we did when the company was set up, which we all know as GIPS, was to start going around the world to see how payments were evolving. Today, 16 years on, other countries and countries that we visited are now coming to learn from us. And I think it's been a very interesting 16 years journey. The first task that we were given, I'm just giving you a bit of context before we move on to the actual barriers that are actually hindering us, hindering our progress. The first task that we were given was the fact that the central bank did something very laudable. They carried out a research to find out why Ghanaians were so much in love with cash payments. And the first thing that came up was that in order for you to have access to the cards that existed, you need a bank account. Now, 80% of us didn't have one. I remember when I came back to Ghana, it took me about 6 months before a bank saw me fit to own a bank account. So the KYC needed to own a bank account was so high that 80% were out. So straight away, irrespective of the digital instruments or payments that you had eliminated 80% already. The only institutions offering payment systems, believe it or not, were banks. The word fintech was not even in existence. MoMo, MTN was noted for communications only. I'm taking you back to just 16 years back to see how far we have progressed. And when we talk about the barriers specific to Ghana, we'll make it very... Oh, okay, I've been giving some notes to guide me. Thank you very much. So the research came up with, I think, a couple of points. One, the KYC needed. Two, safe homes. All the banks were in Accra, Kumasi, Takoradi, because that's where they can find safe homes. It doesn't mean that payment requirements were not needed in Sunyani and the other regions, but that's where they could have safe homes, they could have connectivity, and they can have reliable electricity. So our first task was a very interesting one. How can you come up with a payment system that do not require a safe home, do not require all the rigorous KYC, does not require a connectivity, full connectivity to operate? And that was what gave birth to eSwitch. And in order to be given an eSwitch account, all you need was an ID card. Your fingerprints are taken, because when it comes to identifying the individual, knowing you beyond any reasonable doubt, if we have a biometric data of you, then we know who you are, instead of asking for your telephone number and your utility bills. So that was a system that we came up with in 2008. And I'm so grateful that this system has served us so well that to date, 16 years on, eSwitch is still serving Ghana. It's the predominant system that is used for social payments. When you look at the world of payments, as we are going to look at the barriers, it's important to look at the inputs, the stakeholders, and what they use it for. So the key area is individuals in Ghana, corporates, how do they receive their payments? How are they paid? Are they paid digitally? If they are not paid digitally, how do you expect them to transact digitally? So I think when it comes to the input side of things, the e-switch system has served us very well. It has also served the informal sector. Today, I think we have roughly 50 institutions who are paid via the e-switch. It goes on to, when you are paid via e-switch, it goes either onto your e-switch card or the rest can go into your bank account. That's a tick in the box. Now, what do we see at the center? When they are paid onto their e-switch card, the first thing they do is they go and load their e-switch cards, and then they move it into their MoMo. The question is, why are they doing that? And we'll come to that. So the e-switch system served us very well in 2007, 2008, where payments were made electronically. But because we do not have enough ATMs, that's biometric ATMs and biometric POSes, there was a block. So that's where we had challenges. Now, instead of us addressing those challenges, we moved on to create efficiencies in the check clearing environment. So check clearing at that time were predominantly used by bank customers. Again, so what we are doing is we are creating efficiencies within the bank customers, still leaving the unbanked behind. So before check truncation came into being, it took about 7 days to 2 weeks before checks were cleared. We modernized it, and I'm sure you are now enjoying the use of checks, that when checks are given to you, they are cleared same day or next day the most. And that's, by the way, it's something that a lot of countries, including the US, don't have. So I'm just taking you through the journey of how far we have come. Then we move on to how can we address the informal sector? It was around 2009 that MTN was finally given the opportunity to start offering mobile money services. And at that time, typical Ghanaians, once they see something new, they see it as there's something dodgy about it. And e-switch at that time was really flourishing. So we, in partnership with MTN, said, look, what we do is that we go on conferences, we have market fairs, market storms, where we educate students and individuals on the use of e-switch. We don't have a problem if you want to come with us. That's how far we have worked as the national switch with MTN. And that was how MTN started in 2009. I think the Ruths and the rest who are here will attest to that. But today, look at where MTN is now. What is it that has made MTN to be where they are? If we are talking about digital payments, that's where you need to start. MTN focused on the informal sector, where the problem is, and not the formal sector that they had bank accounts. It was through MTN's efforts that there was even a need for the central bank to know that there's a need for us to set up a whole department for innovation and fintechs to concentrate on how we should assist them. Before then, all these things didn't exist. So the regulator was even being educated on what are some of the steps to take. Then MTN started. When they started, I think even MTN customers, their own staff did not even want MTN mobile money. They were forced to be paid on their lunch allowances was what they were forced to, and once they are paid onto their mobile money, there was nowhere else they can actually cash it out or use it. So I remember in their canteen, they even put an acceptance, MTN mobile money acceptance there, for those of you who can remember. So it's telling you that it's not okay just to pay the person electronically, but you must also create an outlet for the person to use. The writings are all there. It's a story that you must follow, and that's where you find where the barriers are. So MTN customers alone were asked to, they were able to buy their food using MoMo. And I think they subsidize it as well. So I used to go there and have my lunch. That's why I remember it so well. Then they realized that there was a need to create outlets. And that was when they started the agent network. So if you give me funds on my card or in my mobile money wallet or into my bank account, and where I shop at, they don't accept it, then there's a disjoint. So then MTN said, right, let's create outlets around the world so that at least the individuals who are paid via their mobile money will be able to have access to their funds. Most people didn't believe it. And then they came out with their revolutionary advert, Misaka. You remember those things, yeah? So you're able to send money, and I remember the story very well, the way this thing is empty, and I really followed it. So they started creating outlets. And then when they started creating outlets, there was something that became known to us that wasn't around at that time. It was the first time that we realized that individuals wanted cash. But cash was physical and it was instant. But when the Misaka adverts came, that was when we realized that, look, they don't mind electronic, but it also has to be instant. So when they send them money and they are informed and they say Misaka, and then they know that, oh, really, it has really landed. And that was when individuals started having what? Confidence. I know, Eric, you went through all the key factors. So the confidence then came in. And then the alert system also continued to give the merchants the assurance that it's not a Sakawa thing, but payments has actually been effected. And we are where we are now. But whilst MTN was growing the ecosystem, it cannot be done by one entity. I think others came in, Vodafone, then Airtel Tigo, to concentrate on the what do you call it, to support the journey in Ghana. But there was friction. Kwame wants to send me money. Kwame belongs to MTN. I belong to Vodafone. But we live in an ecosystem. We do not need to belong to one network in the informal sector, because that is not the behavior in the formal sector. We all do not belong to one bank. We have a system called checks or cards. So if we are now moving the whole country into the real-time payments, then we must create SAVE. And that was what actually gave birth to interoperability. That let's create a situation whereby we can create convenience for individuals to transact. You do not necessarily need to be with the same network. And we all saw the difference before interoperability and after interoperability. MTN saw a massive growth. Vodafone saw a massive growth. Airtel Tigo equally saw a massive growth. And that told us that when you create convenience, there's enough in the pie for everybody to act. We haven't scratched the surface when it comes to digital payments in Ghana. We have moved from the clearing environment to the cards environment, but the future is a real-time environment. We are blessed in Ghana to have a national switch that is overseeing the motorways of the payment systems. In the absence of GIPS, what do you think will happen if MTN wants to interconnect to all the 3 or 4 mobile money entities? There will be a need for bilaterals. As MTN connects to mobile money net 1, mobile money net 2, what is happening to their cost of operations is going up, and they are going to pass it on to who? The customers. So the introduction of a national switch to oversee all the high roads is a key prerequisite in any country that is serious on embarking on a digital payment journey. In Ghana today, if you want to move funds or if you set up a company, a fintech company, a mobile money company, and you connect to GIPS, you have access to all mobile wallets, you have access to all bank accounts, and you have access to all e-switch accounts. These are some of the strategies that we have put in place to reduce the cost of doing business. Because Eric, you rightly mentioned cost as the barrier, which means that we need to do a lot more of coming together. I think the lady who introduced me mentioned some of my background, that I worked in the auto industry. When you see these BMWs, Mercedes, etc., someone would say, I like Mercedes. Someone say, well, I prefer BMW. But what you don't know is that majority of the parts that they use in there, they come together, jointly develop it, and then share the cost. And each and everyone goes away and use their however marketing skills or whatever products you want to develop, you go away and do so. That is the kind of cooperations that is needed between the banks, the fintechs, and the MoMo companies to reduce the cost of operations for our customers. At the moment, we do have it through GIPS, but there are a lot of other things that we need to do. We are not sharing enough of our development work as a country. I was pleasantly surprised when I happened to be in Nairobi 3 weeks ago, because the thinking was that they are very far ahead of us when it comes to mobile payments. But when I went there, the first thing I realized was that when it comes to, I think they have about 3 switches. They have KNet and then something else and then InterSwitch 2. 42 banks with a number of mobile money companies, about 3 or 4 of equity and things. All their connections are bilateral. One network is connected to 42 banks, another one is connected to, Yet, when it comes to usage, they are far ahead of us. And I ask myself the question, how come, despite the hindrances that they have, when it comes to usage, they are far ahead of us? And the first thing that they spoke about was partnerships. Partnerships. You would have an agent. That agent is not exclusive to one network. The second thing that they spoke about was something that you mentioned, and I think Winfred also mentioned, education. All the voice comms are in their local language. I haven't heard any mobile network speaking Ga. It's all English. So when it comes to the language, making it appropriate, it's so important. If we are to address digital payments in the country, despite the infrastructure that has been put in place, I think there should be a mind shift. The first mind shift is for us to know that we are addressing the informal sector. That's where the issue is. So if it's the informal sector, how do they behave? Equity Bank, when I went there, I was in suit. Everybody was in T-shirt like MTN. Because they told me that the customers that we serve, that's the way they dress. They have a whole network where within, they've mapped it up like a political party, where within this group is a fishing village. So this is a keen fisherman. Everybody listens to this keen fisherman, and that keen fisherman is an agent. And that role of that keen fisherman is to educate and ensure that all the sub-community understands it. So you can develop all the various AI technologies till the cows come home. If you don't go down and ask, who am I addressing? Nothing would happen. Then it's also an informal environment, but they have a very strong consumer groups there that will tell you that, no, we don't want this, and then we want that. And they do as much as they can to address the needs. I'm not talking about the wants, the needs, their payment needs. As a country, are we doing that? What kind of incentives are needed to move one from use of cash to digital payments? I think MTN does a lot of those things. And maybe that's why they are succeeding in their environment. Eric has gone through a lot. Winifred too have spoken about these barriers. But what I think we are good at is talking about what the issues are. But what are we going to do about them? We shouldn't, I saw all your slides. I think what I've been given, there's a duplication. But what are the key 2-3 things as we sit here that we can do to ensure that we address these issues? If any country is serious about addressing their digital payments needs, they must be very serious about their fintech industry. It's the fintechs that will drive it. And I'm quite happy to say that since I came back from Kenya, I have informed our head of finance that we should start engaging the fintechs more and start giving them a preferential pricing to encourage them. Secondly, since the fintechs are the ones who are actually looking at the business requirement of the various business sectors, we should be having better relationships with them, continuous workshops with them to understand where their pain points are and support them accordingly. The moment you change your mind and set that we are in a low profit but high volume game, low margin, high volume game, that is where we are going to make a kill and support. So we'll be achieving the national agenda, but our profitability will not also be compromised. We can come and set volume targets, differential volume targets. If you are able to meet this volume, we would give you this reduction, and you in turn would pass it on to the customer. We are quite happy to also support the fintechs in terms of partnership. We have some relationships with the University of Ghana as well as the University of Technology, KNUST, so that their IT and the computer science and IT departments, we can start having some kind of internship, such that when they have completed their IT or computer science courses, they don't just, after their national service, they don't just sit at home, but there will be a clear path through GIPS and then into the fintech industry as well. And we are going to do a lot of these things with them. I've spoken to the deans, and we are going to sponsor some of their projects and things with some of the connections that we have in government as well as the fintech industry. And I would indeed need all your cooperation in that regard. This approach, by the way, is very normal in Germany, such that when you finish your degree, you spend a year or two in a university or an industry where after 2 or 3 years, you become conversant and seasoned in there. I've just been prompted that my time is up, but I'd like to leave by saying that our doors are open at GIPS. We've gotten to the stage where we feel and we believe that the roads, the high roads, have been constructed. We have all the payment services, products and services that we need. What is left is how it can be used. We can do that. We are at the center, but we are happy to support any fintech company in the country to achieve that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hesse. Your time may be up with the speaking, but we still have a lot of time to take questions, and so that you can answer some of the questions that will come up. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for Mr. Achi Hesse. It's now time to get the perspective of the regulator, and to do us the honors is a man who is passionate. He's a passionate advocate for financial inclusion. innovation, and the development of digital economies. Well, his background spans technology, digital financial services, DFS operations. He has policy development and regulation as well. He has consulted for several governments, public sector institutions, international development organizations, and private corporate globally. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the head of FinTech and Innovation at the Bank of Ghana, Mr. Kwame Opon, to take us through another 10 minutes of presentation.
Thank you very much, Emefa, and good morning, everyone. Permit me to stand on existing protocol and also appreciate the comments and contributions from previous speakers. And Mr. Esse, I enjoyed that history of where we've come from. I think as we listen to all of this, it reminds me that while digital payment and a discussion around the barriers to promoting it is the focus of today, from a broader policy perspective, it is the aim of government and the Bank of Ghana to achieve financial inclusion, and we see this channel as a potent vehicle for that objective. Let me also commend Mobile Money Limited for the consistency with which you have held these events over the years. I believe it continues to be an opportunity for you to engage your stakeholders, to be able to engage, deliberate, and also potentially collaborate on achieving some of these shared objectives. I mentioned financial inclusion, as well as cash light agenda. And I'm happy to see there already is some idea around some of the key elements that you can collaborate on. So I'm going to take you through a short presentation that really looks at what our objectives are and why this space has been important for us going back to nearly 2 decades. And I think Mr. Hesse gave a very vivid picture of how the story began and, frankly, the triumphs and challenges that industry stakeholders, including Mobile Money Limited, have all been through to even get us this far. As we look at this at a broader level, from a financial inclusion perspective, it is important that we look at what the key policy pillars would be in order to achieve them. And again, these are things that I have heard described in various ways in the different perspectives that have been shared so far. First is simplified onboarding. Now, it is effectively an objective to improve access to basic accounts and wallets and to financial services. And so Ghana was one of the first countries, in fact, on the continent, we were the first to introduce a tiered KYC system, even after introducing the biometric national ID card, which clearly was far ahead of its time for payments. This was actually pioneered also in the EMI guidelines, which ensured that even people with just a photo ID could get access to a low transacting account with minimal requirement, just a photo ID, they could at least transact. And this simplification of onboarding requirements is an objective that we continue to explore. You've seen recently that we've put out a directive that says you can only use your Ghana card. But beyond that, what else can we do to simplify the onboarding onto financial services? Second is consumer education. This actually empowers consumers from 2 perspectives. The first, you actually help consumers save themselves from some of these headaches and heartburns when they encounter financial services or they begin to embrace it, so you don't have them churning. So those numbers that Eric shared is very important, and as policymakers and as regulators, we continue to look at it as well. And when you delve deep, even the fear of being caught up in any kind of social engineering or fraud is of concern to some people, and for that reason, will be a bit hesitant and continue to embrace digital financial services and payments. On the other hand as well, a well-informed consumer is actually a good customer. And this is a no-brainer for those of you from the business community. Your investment in retention would always pay dividends if your consumer is well educated. They are less likely to churn, they are less likely to be stuck on one product, and over the long term, they will represent a higher lifetime value for you as a business. Third, customer recourse mechanisms. While we expect that you do that, we're still regulators, and we insist on that. Whether you're applying for a license or you're applying for a product authorization, it is in our mandate to ensure that you are acting both to the letter of the recourse mechanisms guideline that we have in place and beyond that, particularly looking at the fact that this is an innovation world. So many things may be different, and therefore we need to ensure that the spirit of these recourse mechanisms are embedded in what you put out there, giving consumers the avenues for interventions when they encounter problems, self-service tools, prompt responses, and even, in fact, proactive intervention when they encounter problems in using your services. This is important to ensure that they can continue to trust, they can be comfortable, and will continue to embrace digital financial services and payments. Fourth is the issue of data privacy and protection. Data is the new oil, as they say, but data is our identity as well. Without knowing your names, there's so much that so many technology providers can say about you, sometimes even in breach of your privacy. It is important that as we do this, we also ensure that we are not violating our consumers' privacy, abusing their data. And you saw recently action that was taken in collaboration between the Bank of Ghana, EOCO, and the Cybersecurity Authority to intervene where some illicit actors in the space with last name in their heart were engaged in the form of illegal lenders. It wasn't just about loans, it was also about harvesting your data and using it for malicious purposes. It is important that we ensure this, particularly for the younger generation coming, whose entire livelihoods, these are digital-first consumers, whose entire lives are online. You pose a risk to their future if the information about them is not well guarded, well protected, and utilized to their benefits. There is also a good part to this, which is the fact that data is a source to be able to understand consumers better and to be able to provide them the necessary services that they need and tailor to their needs in a more optimal way. For that reason, Bank of Ghana is already internally considering an open banking policy, and at the right time, we'll be engaging the broader stakeholder community for your input as well, so we can make that a reality. The fifth has to do with conduct supervision. This, from our perspective, is to ensure that the space is safe. It is safe for everyone, not just consumers and businesses, but for everyone. How you conduct yourself as businesses has a significant implication on the growth of the industry. And as regulators and policymakers, it will continue to be, as part of our goal and mandate, a focus for us to ensure that conduct within the digital financial service ecosystem is acceptable and in the interest of the overall market. With that said, I think you've already seen and heard several things that are happening. GHQR is one of them. Bank of Ghana recently introduced a sandbox to encourage innovations. I've been quite impressed with some of the innovations we're seeing, and I can't wait till we can officially announce some of the innovations that are being considered. I think people in this room will actually be surprised to see the innovation that we're considering through the Bank of Ghana Innovation and Regulatory Sandbox. And this is something we'll continue to do. You've also seen several policies and other interventions that we put in place, including internal supervisory technologies to help us better supervise the sector. And as Mr. Hesse mentioned, as we learn, we also look at how we can improve our operations to be responsive and agile in addressing your needs and helping achieve our overall objectives. And let me also give you perhaps a perspective on what's happening so far. I think as we take a step back, we'll begin to realize that we have come far. I mean, listening to some of the things that Archie shared, it reminded me of so many things that I also saw firsthand. I see several people in the room who have the scars to show it. But much as we have a long way to go, and we need to continue to collaborate to get that to that objective, we've also come far. If you look at the fact that last year, we ended with about 505,000 mobile money agents, and this is just the mobile money sector. About 13 billion in floats last year, which went up to the last report, about 14 billion this year. About 122 billion in transactions in value, 488 million transactions among customers, and about 20 million active mobile money users, with not a very large population. Our adult population is somewhat close to this, but we still have some way to go ahead. And even as we see metric by metric, significant and steady progress, sometimes it's down, sometimes it's up, but as you see from the trend lines, there's a consistent trajectory that indicates that we're headed in the right direction. Whether stumbling or walking or running, we are headed in the right direction. Now let me take, as I mentioned, this will be a very short conversation because my goal today is to listen and hear from you as stakeholders, taking that opportunity to relay that information both to our institution, to ourselves at an individual level, and to better engage on addressing some of these solutions. But let me give you some ideas of what we've been looking at and seeing in terms of the barriers to adoption. Now, this is not going to be operational. Many of you as service providers already have the details, and you've been treated to a very vivid picture from both Winifred and Eric, and subsequently from Mr. Hesse, on what is required at the operational level. But let me take a pause here and say, first, putting consumers at the center of everything we do is of utmost importance. They are the reason why you exist. They are the reason why we also exist, whether directly or indirectly, as a regulator. It is important that whatever we do, we're giving them the right level of support, education, and protection so that they will continue to be able to utilize the services. Second, it is also important that for us as Bank of Ghana, and perhaps in this context as a FinTech Innovation Office, that we pay attention to ensure that we're providing agile and responsive regulation that can help you grow, that we can collaborate with you and co-create innovative regulatory frameworks that can help you achieve your objectives in terms of serving consumers, and also be able to help us achieve our policy goals of financial inclusion and a cash-light society. Third is a thorny issue of competition. I actually enjoyed a very direct manner of which Eric made his points very clear. I think the message was directly to Mobile Money Limited and all the other dedicated electronic money issuers. And I commend you for that open comment and contribution. I think this is how you collaborate with partners, and I believe it was taken in good faith, and you will see some progress on it. If you don't see progress, we're here to remind them. Competition should not be destructive. It must be fair, and it must also consider the practices with which one engages in it. And particularly in an environment where clearly the opportunity before us significantly outweighs any needless squabbles here and there. It is about time that as service providers in this industry grow larger, you also consider enabling the broader ecosystem. Become an enabler of the broader ecosystem. This is commensalism, and you will find value in it. It is inspiring to see small fintechs go into partnership with large players, and they grow along with it. Now, from the regulatory side and the supervisory side, we see this, and we think there's a lot more that can be done. To MML and all your competitors, and even to the fintechs. Now, some of you are really growing and keeping up and perhaps chasing the mobile money operators in terms of size and scope. You also have an obligation to reach back into the smaller fintechs and innovators and startups, to look past competition, to find areas to collaborate. Fourth, we've talked about collaboration, but let me make a point about stakeholder alignment and commitment. I'm happy there's an issue that's being discussed, and I'm already happy to see that GIPS is going to look at a tiered pricing structure. I saw the vigor in the clap of the fintechs in the room. It is good news. It makes a very big difference from an economic standpoint in terms of their business, and you will see growth from this channel. It will be good for them, it will be good for GIPS as well, and it will be good for our overall market. And finally, my last point, which is the fifth, is what you have to say to us. Not just us as a regulator, but to everyone in this room. What else can we do beyond what we see from our very humble location in Ridge? To really understand, as an industry, where are you going? Where do you aspire to go? And how can we be of use? How can we be of value in helping you achieve that? We're very mindful of the fact that your success has a tremendous implication on our success with our policy objective. Let's not forget, getting to 68% in financial inclusion based on the FinDex survey, but some alternate data from similar institutions have us somewhere upwards of 80%. And if you look at the fact that we have about 24 million adults and you have about 22 million wallets, you know where this is headed. But that's only because when mobile money was growing, the banking ecosystem also grew. It has been a potent vehicle for this growth and for achieving our financial inclusion objectives. We're very mindful of that, and we'll never forget that. And that's the reason why we remain committed and resolute in pursuing this. And let's not forget, as a country, especially for you as service providers who are trekking the length and breadth of this country, you know that ours is a story of hope and resilience. In spite of all the cacophony du jour, the reality is that when you take a step back, you will see that opportunity and promise is something that is not lost in our purview. But the real challenge for us is, how do we really come together, take a step back, and work together, particularly resolved to ensure that we can collaborate with stakeholders, even while competing, to aspire to our shared objectives and goals. We're not incapable, we're not helpless. We have all the resources, we have all the talent, we have the commitment, and particularly we have the enabling regulatory framework as well to make that possible. And so let's keep that goal before us in our sights, because this is good for business, it is good for the consumers, and it is good for the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pong. Well, I have a number of headlines, and I'm sure that it's midday, so we are live also on the various news channels, and I'm sure Joy Business has the headline of GIPS offering internship opportunities to IT students as they partner universities in a bid to remove barriers to digital payments in Ghana. Correct headline? Okay, great. And then also you are offering support to fintechs. And we've just heard from the central bank also remaining committed to removing barriers in digital payments. So I've done my headline. I hope that if you hear it anywhere, it's my headline. Okay. Well, it's confession time. I don't know how many of you have been able to resist the temptation to give back in equal measure, pressed down, shaking together, to MoMo fraudsters when they call you and you don't fall victim to their scam and they start insulting you. Oh, Reverend Father is not here. Nobody is confessing. You allow them. You don't insult back. Okay. Do we have a MoMo fraudster here? Of course we don't. Well, it's a good time for the production team to give us a MoMo fraud skit. Then we'll come into the audience and then we'll get our questions. Whilst we do that, please, our speakers will get ready. to take the podium. Then we can ask the questions, all the questions right here. By the time we leave, Mr. Achihesi says, we don't just highlight the problems, but of course we leave with solutions. They've proffered some. I'm sure you also have some that you would want to share with us. So please enjoy Momo Froster Skit, episode 1.
Season of the year just ends.
Get this trainer mess. You know what I mean? Also, the way our mama cause financial loss to this company.
But boss, sometimes also you do too much. Makato say mugus no mabana so many at.
Shut up. Hey, 50 time I'm a bed picking or to do lorry station. Now to say Adunle and let's show you. And then what in the other table so. Now get this trainer mess. Make sure say BB free and I will sack you. I'm not joking. Hurry up. Hurry up.
My chicken in now.
Shut up and hurry up.
Hello. Good afternoon. Yes, my name is Peter Nyameche, calling from the MTN office.
MTN, I didn't know more friend.
Please.
Abotari. Now can me shed antini you? Me paucho. Why? Ye country na yen koni kama.
Why? Oh, unte brofo. Me paucho. The TN say, good news now. Yes, MTN 4 run a promotion. And now onabaneka ho. And ewiye no wona bono ne edim kunim enti ye maw 1,000 Ghana cedis eye titiscano 10 million.
10 million. Me bacha be wa ha me tie o.
Madam, na ansa na ye discano beto mu account nim no. Ye won sem bise bi no pese ye bisa o. Se wotimi yi ni na no an ye discano to mama.
Me bacha ye mi wa ha.
Me bacha dey kan o full name.
Amabuatima.
Okay, nice. Yes. About your date of birth, no?
But your MTN.
MTN, no?
MTN, dear, send me dim wo send me date of birth so when
who say I confirm draw soon. Inti na yebasi ye boa no. Se na bi obi antimi wia o.
Okay. My date of birth ni 1st January 1987.
Welcome to the MTN MoMo self-defense class. Attention in class. Now listen, these fraudsters, they think they are so smart, but it's all Azar and Magadre. MTN will only call you with 0244 300,000. MTN will only invite you to the head office if you have participated and won in a promotion that MTN is running. So when you receive any such suspicious calls, call 100. And remember, stay safe, stay vigilant.
Dial
star 170 hash. Select option 6, wallet, and option 4, report fraud. You can also email mmfraudteam.gh@mtn.com and you can call 100 for subscribers.
MTN.
You have duly been educated. Well, I think we should give it up for MTN and the MoMo police for making it happen. Well, at this point, I've taken my stand amongst the audience so that I can see all of you that have questions, then we can take them. But before we do that, with a round of applause, let's welcome on stage our speakers for today that will take our questions and answers. Head of Products and Services, Mobile Money Limited, Mrs. Sylvia Otwe Champon. Let's give her a round of applause as she takes her seat. Followed closely will be the General Manager, Celilands Ghana, Mr. Eric Kote. We have the Head of FinTech and Innovation at the Bank of Ghana, Mr. Kwame Opong. We have the CEO of Eagle Innovations, Madam Winifred Coating. Thank you. And we have the Chief Executive of the Ghana Interbank Services and Settlement System, Mr. Achi Hesse. In no particular order, you can take any seat. You can start to catch my eye if you want me to come to you with questions, but let me ask mine first. I have a few. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. You have your microphones by you, so in no particular order. But first, there's been a lot of talk about education. And of course, since it's a MoMo season, I would want to first come to you, Madam Sylvia Otwe-Champong. So the issue has been about the language barrier, the education, and we have a lot of people, the issue about pins and giving it out amongst others. When you talk about education and then also keeping our pins amongst others, what can you say about what you've witnessed so far and the experiences in terms of offering education to the general public?
Thank you very much, and very engaging session so far. I'm also learning a lot and taking lots of notes. So I think all our presenters really touched on education. It is the central issue or challenge that we need to overcome. And when I asked the question if we know the key name for digital, it was actually alluding to that, because until we begin to speak the language, the name digital in Chi, in Ga, in Ewa, in any language, people are constantly going to be exposed to some of these fraudsters. So we've done a lot. Some of these sketches and various educational campaigns that we do really point people to be aware, to stay alert in terms of some of these fraudsters. But we could do more, and we feel it has to be a joint approach. I like the presentation from Winifred because it goes beyond a single entity really trying to put up a campaign to actually embed it in the full education and literacy program of digital inclusion. Because as the presenters exposed to us today, the vulnerable are the ones not in this room. So literally we are preaching to the converted. But what kind of language, what kind of posture, how do we put together a good program that your grandmother and my grandmother who are exposed to this, because all of them are receiving money. They're receiving remittance, they're receiving what we transfer. How do we get them to understand? We record quite a number of PIN reset requests. Okay, and these are from both educated and not too educated. And the head of customer experience, Jemima, is here. And week on week, month on month, we try to educate people. Okay, you have somebody who is losing they can't even remember the PIN, their mobile money PIN, which they use supposedly on a very frequent basis. So the way we are looking for solutions today, as Archie said this morning, how do we do it? And the first step we want to take is a collaborative effort. Work with the informal sector, the whole ecosystem of merchants. We look at the informal education sector also, using sketches as Winifred shared, and also really educating people on the importance of PIN. One area that we are busy with is PIN the only way? Are there other alternatives? Biometrics are there, other means of really unlocking or using payment without necessarily having to remember a 4-digit number. So it would take all of us coming together the fintechs, the banks, the regulator, and even the educational service, putting a program together for us to do that. And I think that is where we are coming from, to say, let's chart a course. Let's make education a priority for our customers as well.
Okay, you've been mentioning the regulator as well, but Mr. Opon, there are those who are of the view that it appears the regulator is leaving education totally to the service providers. It doesn't appear that you are taking up your role as regulators also when it comes to educating. And have we had cause to even sanction any payment service provider over the period since it was introduced, amongst others? Maybe you can give us an update in that regard. Have you left education totally to payment service providers? Do you have a role at all?
Thank you very much. It's a very interesting question. We actually have not ceded the education issue to service providers. But I think we also are mindful of what our capacity and limitations may be. As part of offering certain services, the payment service providers are locating agents and acquiring agents and managing agents in a much farther and wider breadth than we have present. And in that regard, they often are a much better channel and capillary to pull through information. So you would notice sometimes that when there's any change in policy, mobile money services, service providers, for instance, will communicate some of these changes, whether it's a new ID requirement or anything of that nature, through their channel into the agent location. So these agents as well can provide that information to consumers. But we also have a big stick, and we have the opportunity to engage the broader nation on the issue of education in financial services. And let's be honest, I think the country, and this is not peculiar to Ghana, has a very high requirement at this point and need for financial education, and particularly digital financial literacy. And this is one of those instances where I have to, again, agree with everyone. It takes a village. But we obviously have the convening authority and the ability to bring all parties together. And so this is something that we've been doing. And I think perhaps it's about time we also step up a bit more in facilitating that. So we're actually beginning to consider something where we can lead that. And I should mention that we have a financial stability function that is already engaged in basic literacy trainings across the country. But when you listen to some of the complaints around fraud and the rest, it's very basic things that people can know and save themselves from them. And where policy, where service providers are not perhaps achieving the objectives as we hope, we should also step up a bit more, bring everyone together. And it's not just service providers in terms of Mobile Money Limited. There are other third parties who have an interest in this. And we should be able to bring them all together, including the agents, because the design of mobile money services includes them as an intervention point as well. Okay. So I think there's a role for us to play, and a bit more than we have thus far.
Thank you. Well, I got up from there because I've seen that there's some goodie on top of us, on your head there. You can't partake in that. There's a QR code currently on the screen. You have to scan with your phones. Download the MoMo Pay. So I've left you. I'm here. But Mr. Hesse, as a follow-up briefly to your announcement on fintechs, will there be a policy direction to that effect? I saw that the room was very excited about that announcement. Will it follow with a policy direction, or it's just something that GIPS will be taking up? You take that?
In fact, no, I believe you. Did you say Mr. Hesse or?
Mr. Hesse, I said.
Sorry, I missed the question.
That's fine. I'm sure you were thinking about the QR code that you are missing. So I was asking about the announcement that GIPS gave to fintechs. When you returned, you mentioned that you've directed your office to ensure that there's a solid partnership between yourselves and fintech. And I'm asking if there will be a policy direction. I'm sure Mr. Ashibe will be interested in that. Will there be a policy direction to that effect, or is just a collaboration between your office Will there be a formal thing that will follow up after this announcement?
Yes, I don't think there's a need for a policy direction for this. It's for me, it's business as usual, and it's something that we should be doing already. Let me give you an example. The central bank came up with a directive that all international schemes must, I think I've forgotten the timeline, that they must all process their transactions within Ghana. And they had three choices. Either they set up a company in Ghana, or they partner with a fintech or with a dedicated entity like Gibbs. And their first option they felt wasn't really economically viable for them to set up a company in Ghana based on the population size we had. And when they assessed all the fintechs in Ghana, they felt they were not at the level that they should be. So they were left with no other option than to partner with the dedicated entity. I think it's not something that we should be happy with in Ghana. As I said earlier, if we are to achieve our objective, we need to enable the fintechs to grow. If you look at the fintech companies in Nigeria, for example, you compare their strength, they are able to do huge things equal to a national switch. I can't say the same about ours. They have started, but they need to be supported, and that's the kind of support I was talking about. Thank you.
Have the audience raise it, whether it will be reduced a bit further. I'm sure they are interested in that. But let's take the questions at this point.
Hello, my name is Kweku Saki, and I represent the Better Than Cash Alliance, an arm of the UNDP. Thank you very much, MTN, to start with, for the wonderful panel you've set up, and everybody spoke really well. I'd like to say, Winfred, I really came for that. You really touched on certain things that we've been looking at. So really what I was going to say is that I don't think as a society or a nation, we value the integrated policy approach. And Kwame, you rightly said it takes a village. We're looking at literacy and education. We have colonial legacies that have got about 12 or 16 languages in Ghana, and Ghana and other West African countries have the unique problem of having no singular language that we are actually educating. So I work in the rural areas a lot, and I find that everybody who can read and write a local language can read and write English, because English is the main mode of education. So if you're going to try and get something in a local language, the person actually already can read and write English, and that is a particular thing. So in terms of an integrated approach, there are several countries in the eastern part of Africa who have all adopted singular languages in their countries and use that as the basis for mass education. That might be a hurdle too big for us to climb. So we come to the situation where the gentleman from Netherlands, Mr. Eric, yes, was talking about, Mr. Eric Cote was talking about smartphones and their penetration. This is fantastic. In a recent outreach we did, we were looking out for access phones, and for the price, we found feature phones. And we were told, or I found out, that the tax rate on a feature phone is the same as a smartphone. And a feature phone has got a much lower, profit margin. So a lot of the companies are now trying to phase that out and look at smartphones. So if we had an integrated policy, we could now start looking at what kind of tax rates apply to the different phones. Do we have a policy that looks at, if we get smartphones or access smartphones, get about 10 or 12 different brands that the government is going to brand as access smartphones, can we now get these phones at a cheaper rate to the rural areas? Because a lot of the rural areas face fraud because of financial education. You have the women in the farming communities who send their children to go and take money out of the agent with a pin. You have the agent, people who go to the agents to withdraw money and give them their PIN written on a piece of paper because they do not know how to use any of these basic access products. With a smartphone, you can actually get the skits you have out here sent out to them. And lastly, I'd like to say, in terms of products, Mr. Kote, you were touching on that. We did some work in the Western region. We spoke to about 500 farmers, and not one of these farmers had a financial product. Not one. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in looking at the kind of products you can relay out in the rural areas.
Thank you, Kweku. Thank you. Well, I would like you to please keep your questions and your contributions straight to the point so that we can take as many as possible. But at this point, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Carl Ashi, G-Money. Can I see you, Carl? Please give it up for Carl. We also have in our midst Kinsley Frimpong Jr., AT Money. Kinsley, where are you? Okay. We also have Judith Amu Bosman representing Vodafone. You are Judith? Okay. At least she's here. Thank you. Let's take your question, your name and where you're coming from, please.
Okay. My name is Frederick Ohine of Ado. I'm coming from NEIP. My first question goes to Auntie Sylvia. I want to find out if MTN is having a consideration of taking off their service charge from MoMo as an incentive for clients like us to just enjoy the payment or the tax off of the e-levy whilst your service payment or service charges are dashed to us as bonus, since other telcos are doing that. Two, MTN. We mentioned education now. I want to find out how deep or rooted the internal education of your customer service is when it comes to your MoMo steps or whatever one does when there's a problem with MoMo. I'm saying so because I was forced to disconnect my mobile app from my Fidelity account on the 20th of July this year, 2023. I made an early morning transaction from my bank to my mother's line. I called my mother's line, it wasn't going through, and I realized from my bank end that my mother's name even didn't pop up, meaning I might have done a wrong transaction to a different number or something. Immediately, I called MTN. They picked my call to withhold the amount for me. Now, I was given an information of 5 to 15 days for reversal from the first person I spoke to. Immediately, I called my relationship manager, and she says I was supposed to have been given a PIN code for the bank to be able to liaise with MTN. I called MTN customer care. The second person who picked my call on that day said, it is not in my right to be given a code, and that the investigation unit of MTN will deal with the bank direct. I said, okay, to God be the glory. I called my bank. They said, no, you are supposed to be given something so that we can use to trace the transaction. So, if possible, call them again. And I said, bank, hold on. Let me do a three-way call. I did a three-way call. I got another person picking my number. And she said, boss, we don't allow three-way calls, so I can't talk to you. Then she hung up. I didn't say anything. I said, bank, no, I want MTN to understand the hell I went through as a client and the frustration some people face not to do mobile banking when it happens like that. So with that, how are we going to address it? Lastly, before my last, in here, I want to ask if there is anybody from Agbogbloshie Market Women's Association. There's none. But the space or the gap we are addressing today, they occupy much of that space. They are the users of the MoMo from the market. But this education is not getting to them because they are not here. There are no reps here. They need to be part of today's discussion. Lastly, sir, Mr. Hasey, I beg you, there are a lot of segregation in our systems of registration to get to the final point just for a card. Today, MTN registration is different from Ghana card registration. Which market women will not leave their businesses to go and do their registrations? Can't we have just a channel? When I am registering my Ghana card, my number is given to NIA. They should link with the telcos to have one integrated system to operate our registrations. Yes, our queue in the doors. We will lag behind at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Frederick. I think I'll take one final one for this round, then we can take answers to that. Do we have any hand up? Okay, great. Now it looks like I have to give the microphones.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Alex Forsen, ADB. Just to the point that the gentleman from Cellulant raised in respect of the success rate of transactions. I think those of us that are on the GIBS forum platform that route our transactions through GIBS and on MTN channels, we do realize a lot of failed transactions. Sometimes GIBS will post a flyer on the page indicating that incident at MTN. And sometimes it takes about 18 hours. When you look at the flyer that they post there, 18 hours. When that happens, customers on our platforms transferring funds from their account to MTN wallet, they get frustrated, failed transactions. In a month, you can get about 5,000 failed transactions. The customers do not know that it is as a result of MTN having their own issue, but they will now be bashing the banks. So we want that collaboration between MTN and GIBS. That thing needs to be fixed so that we don't get that much failed transactions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we can take responses to the first round. Looks like a lot of it goes to you, Sylvia. The first one really from Kweku is the integrated policy approach, and it was largely a comment. But Frederick has concerns about your internal system of education as well, and tying nicely with the failed transactions and what happens.
Thank you very much. And I like the questions because they really challenge us. I will start from the third question you raised around the typical user of MTN not being in this room. The MoMo season is actually a 2-month-long program. This is only one aspect of such engagement, where we meet with the partners and the policymakers. Throughout the period, we are in the market. We are with our customers. We are with the market, women, traders, farmers. So across the region, if you monitor, you see a lot of such engagement where you will be where they are, you speak the language, they understand. So I just want to assure you that it is not just a cream of us here talking policy, but the real work is also happening in the ground. And it's something that we do annually, also taking in feedback that also helps us in terms of how we package our services and even how we price. So be rest assured that they are also being engaged at different levels across the country. The experience you shared, unfortunately, let me apologize. That's what I do every time. We've been trained when a customer is upset, the first thing you do is to apologize. So let me apologize for that experience that you went through, but it's an experience that if we allow everybody, we'll get a couple more from that unfortunate incident, especially when it comes to reversal, is also one of our top customer issues. But I'm bringing our minds back to a comment that Mr. Heze made around the unified platform and where we are moving into real time. Because such an issue can be addressed if the systems were communicating already. So the bank and MML will see your issue instantly and be able to offer the same consistent response you get from the bank. A lot of people get thrown around, even within MTN. Somebody will say, I'm responsible for this, because they can only see one aspect of the transaction and somebody else is seeing another aspect. And that is the journey of digitization, where we want to get to a point where everything becomes real time You see it, I can address it from my desk, so is everybody else within the team. So it's a journey. We are finding consistent ways of reducing the pain of our customers, but a lot of it also relies on how we are going to enable real digital experience and real digital service from a service delivery logic perspective, not only in strategy, but also in systems, when every system is talking to each other to really deliver an experience. So we will get there. We will definitely get there. On the last point around the pricing, again, part of it is also this unified approach. So the partnership, the way it's happening now, is a bit in silos. So you have the fintechs doing their own thing, you have the MNOs doing their own thing, and being regulated across. But the way we reduce costs start from the assets, acquiring the resources. If we are collaborating the effort a bit more, and there's a central unified way of integrating, it reduces the cost for everything, for all of us. So I don't have to set up, Cellulant doesn't have to set up, we can collaborate to do that, and that savings get passed on to the customer. And that is why we're here, to find a way of engaging so that not only in policy making, not only in strategy, but the systems that we are all deploying also get to a point where it becomes cheaper to execute, and then the savings get passed on. So for now, we actually have not changed our pricing for a very, very long time. But we know it has to be reduced because the demand is high. And lastly, to point on volumes, okay? I think one of the speakers touched on is a small margin and huge volume business. And so we need to see the volumes coming in, and naturally when the volumes come in, the prices do go down. When e-levy came in, we reduced by about 2.5% of our pricing. And we'll keep on doing that as technology gets cheaper, as integration get a bit more formalized. So we'll get there. I hope it satisfies to an extent. Thank you for the thumbs up.
He was asking about the integration, the channel of registration. Can there be a system where it will just be once? That was what Frederick was asking. So that you just have your Ghana card, then you don't have to go through the entire process all over again.
Well, thank you very much. So I think the broader concern being shared is the frustration with onboarding. Because I think we also have to be mindful that various state institutions have different objectives. So yes, it would be great if that were a possibility, but there are also areas of concern. Now remember, due diligence is not just about identity cards. Often, there's a lot more that goes into it. So whether it's opening a bank account or getting a mobile money wallet. Okay, sorry, this is better. So to the broader point you were making, I think it's a frustration about the general onboarding process. It could have been simpler, admittedly, should there have been a process that is a bit more seamless. Nonetheless, I think we also have to be mindful of the reality that the NIA is an independent institution, is an institution with its own mandate, and there's what they are trying to do. And often expanding the scope could have its own implications. Secondly, at any point in time, sector regulators have an expectation, or they set the due diligence requirements on the basis of the prevailing reality of what you're trying to achieve, defining a certain minimum threshold of information and checks that allows the onboarding of a person. But I think there's also something we have to look at, and there's an opportunity before us. As it stands today, and this example is actually, we've seen it we saw it in India, for instance, when they went with their Aadhaar registration. We're fortunate, we have a national biometric system, identity system, that takes our 10 fingerprints and 2 irises. What that means is there's the opportunity today for every service that you're being onboarded on to be able to use your biometric information to extract your basic information, if that's all that is required, to onboard a certain account, wallet, or service. And with that being done, it's a much shorter process. If you opt to engage in other services as well, because remember, once at registration of secure national ID card, you may be signed up, or you may indicate that, oh, I have perhaps mobile money, or a mobile money wallet with this entity. That could change at any point in time. Consumers need control over that process. This goes to the issue of consent. It goes to the issue of consent and authorization. Your service provider might change at some point, and your preference of even defining the nature of account or relationship you have with them and its commensurate due diligence requirement might also change. And so I think there's a balance between the two. We have to be able to manage the risk, but we also have to be able to figure out how to simplify the operational process. As I mentioned, I think the NIE has demonstrated various approaches with which onboarding could be simplified. As a regulator, our requirement has been that only the national ID card can be used for onboarding. With that said, there will be some types of services that would require a bit more information than just your ID information. So once that seamless process can be integrated, I think banks and service providers are going through their process of onboarding the system. But when that gets to full capacity, you're going to see that it's a very short process for validating who you are. And once that information is passed on to the service provider, then you can be set up, and that's it. Okay. So that timeline, I remember, in the early days of mobile money, they used to use customer registration forms, and they had these serial numbers. And if one person went out of line and started using serial numbers somewhere else, whether mistakenly or knowingly, now the whole process gets jammed, and people across the country had issues. It took about, 15 to 20 minutes to onboard someone. I don't think we're headed in that direction. I think we're continuing to make progress, but this is really reflecting a balance between the two. And as the onboarding on the NIA by service providers and banks is completed, you'll see a much better process. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kote, in your presentation, you mentioned a focus on mining areas. Adoption is low there, you mentioned. You also talked about a focus on these other deprived areas. But more importantly, you talked about the reduction of rates. How feasible is that, you would say?
Thank you very much, Nefa. I think it's very feasible. Once we are with the regulator and then the MNO, it is very feasible. Now, it is very, very expensive venturing into these areas. I did mention something about ROI. We introduced, like for instance, Cellulant, we did introduce a proximity pay product at a point where we were getting 1% from the MNO. We couldn't charge more than 1.1%, so we were also charging 1% and doing all the things. I can see Star Oil is here. They have over 170 branches nationwide. We went to every location in Ghana with them, but we were still charging 1%. So it makes the cost. Today we are not only looking at MRR, monthly recurring revenue. We are looking at GP, which is the gross profit, right? So for instance, companies such as ours, where we are in a group, meaning we are not only in Ghana, they look at your take rate and it becomes a problem because your take rate and then the amount or the fee that you are charging the end consumer is the same. So we are pleading. We know that something can be done about it. If you manage to give us competitive rate just as you are giving the banks, okay, see us as partners. You need to see us as partners. Today you give the banks competitive rates, which makes it very difficult for us to survive. And then when you look at most of our partners, the banks can actually zero out their charges to them. Okay. By and large, you are pushing out the fintech companies. If the bank says that, okay, these transactions, I'm not going to charge you the merchant, I'm not going to charge the end consumer, but then the fintechs are charging the end consumer, it means that by and large, financial adoption or digital payment adoption is dying because the fintechs will be kicked out. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll not leave out the Facebook viewers. We are wrapping up at this point. There are questions about when MTN will stop sending recharge more messages for MoMo, and then when we are getting more offices at district levels, also bank charges for MoMo agents. They're asking when it will be removed, and agent SIM card re-registration. Some say they have to go all the way to the regional capitals before that is done. And I'm sure this is also for Mr. Hesse and Mr. Opong. It says USDD credit cards on apps. When can we start using them? But before then, we have a final comment here, very brief, please, then we can wrap up.
Okay. My name is Maltese Apiasai. I work with Willis Towers Watson as we are addressing the barriers. I want us to look at the risks associated with data loss, data breaches, and of course, cyber attack. We all know these things can bring about downtime, loss of revenue, and of course, business interruption. Now, I want to know what kind of standby force or protection that we have for business continuity, business sustainability, and consumer confidence. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll take your questions and then I'll send them to MTN later. Thank you. So we'll take responses at this point. There are questions about data losses and breaches. And Madam Sylvia, the issues about recharge more messages. You're talking about bank charges also for MoMo agents, amongst others. We can briefly speak to that and then we can wrap up.
Thank you. I think the issue of pricing has come up a few times. Interestingly, it's a subject that is also very close to Shaibu as well, the CEO of Mobile Money Limited. When we were discussing our strategy for next year, one thing that kept coming through was reviewing our pricing. So I've already let it out of the bag. I've committed you, Shaibu, in this forum, but it's something that we are looking at. I think earlier on, we're looking at more innovative way of pricing around the tier model, which Mr. Hesse also something that is happening in other countries, and we are looking at that. How do we do it in a way that really safeguard the business and also help us to really grow more volumes? But I would just say there is a partnership. So just as Eric is looking for lower pricing, we should also collaborate in a way to drive the volumes, because that's the only way we will all be in business long term. So that is one thing that we are really working on, and we would engage our partners in due course and let you know some of the dynamic pricing that we are coming up with, and definitely it will be for both of our interests as well.
Okay. Thank you. Madam Kuting, I'm sure most of your issues you raised, the barriers to take down, has come up throughout, and it looks like it's being addressed really very timely. Knowledge barrier, using payments without assistance, amongst others, it runs through. But Mr. Hesse, I don't know if you want to speak to the USSD credit cards on apps. Will there come a time, people are asking on social media, USSD credit cards, can we use that on our various apps, amongst others? I don't know if the fintechs would want to. USSD, they say. It's on Facebook. You can take the microphone in.
Are you talking about dollar-denominated transactions?
They didn't say that. They only asked USSD credit cards on apps. Will there come a time that we'll start using it? Really, Facebook, he didn't really give details.
I believe the question is to do with foreign transactions. But the remit of GIPS is a CD-denominated transactions. That's where anything else is handled by the banks, either bilaterally among themselves and the central bank.
Okay, but Ms. Opong, briefly also, the deprived areas. the issue about deprived areas. It was raised earlier also by Mr. Kote. Would we have plans to ensure that that expansion, we ensure that people in these deprived areas get access to these payment solutions?
Thank you very much. It's an important question, and of course, we can't be looking at financial inclusion without looking at that. That's why it's interesting, that question about whether USD-denominated credit cards can be used on local apps. The local app is for local transactions. Who is being financially included with a USD credit card, not even a debit card, on an app? I'm a bit suspicious about that question, and the questioner himself. In terms of going beyond the last mile, we have long seen that all our efforts to drive financial inclusion has somewhat been restricted to the end of where you see the last telecommunication tower. It is for that reason that we embarked, among others, on a process to test the e-city, the digital city, because there's something that actually happened in Ghana, which the central bank is quite proud of. It was one of the first countries, frankly, we know China did it, but before China, or after China, we don't have the details on China's process, but we were the first to successfully test an offline central bank digital currency. Mr. Hesse mentioned a number of people who've had to come into the country to quietly look at that and go, and they don't just come from Africa, they've also come from European central banks. The reason why we embarked on that is because at some point, we may not be able, the reality is we may not have the capacity, either from a policy and government level, or even from a business perspective. It may not make sense for them to invest significantly beyond their capacity to have cell towers everywhere in the country. But we also have people who live beyond that last mile. And so to be able to address that, if it is possible for us to put in the hands of consumers a digital CD that may be offline, but is still digital, it allows them to build a transactional footprint for them to be included based on the efforts of banks, fintechs, and mobile money providers who will ride on that channel. That's why our CBDC from I missed the last year's engagement, but it was clear. Ghana's CBDC, the e-city, is not intended to be a competing quote-unquote product. It's currency. We're the only ones who issue currency. But we particularly took the care to make sure it was being introduced as an enabler of the overall ecosystem. So we're basically intending to carve out a path that all the service providers can also ride on to go beyond the last mile to extend financial services in there. So these are the kinds of things we're doing from an innovation and policy thinking perspective, and hopefully someday soon that should become a reality. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We've come to the end for today's stakeholder forum, and I must say that indeed it's been really successful. Let's hear it up for ourselves for making it so wonderful. And I'm sure that we'll have a white paper from here, or we'll have a MoMo communique for today. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much once again. I would want to give you the final word, maybe a closing remark from you, Mrs. Otue Champong, and then we can wrap up.
Okay. What an exciting day it has been today. I kept typing and writing, and I'm sure you did the same. We are so happy you made it. You could have been anywhere, but you chose to spend the time with us. I'm sure because you are as passionate about technology and digital as we do in Mobile Money Limited. I just want to especially thank Mobile Money Limited and MTN together jointly, some of the executives that are here since morning. We appreciate all that you do, being here to really help us create a platform for industry experts and stakeholders to engage. Thank you so much. We also want to extend the same appreciation to all our stakeholder partners, the banks. Some of you are just waiting to engage, and we are ready for that really good discussion that will happen over lunch. And also the fintech community, big, small, medium, in between. We thank you so much for being here as well. And our media partners, you never let us down. The cameras and everything is going round, and we are so grateful that you came and you are capturing the essence of breaking the barriers to digital transaction or digital growth. I want to really thank our regulators, Mr. Hesse and Mr. Opon. They are always on call. Anything that has to do with regulatory government, they are always there to really offer assistance. And also our chamber, I saw Dr. Kenneth has stepped out, but really always there, even when he's not speaking, he's always there to offer one advice or the other. We really appreciate his presence. And all of you, everybody included, thank you so much for coming. Please let the engagement continue online as well for participating, because there's so much we can do, but time is always a challenge to all of us. So thank you for coming. Really appreciate your effort and presence.
Thank you so much. Our media partners, interview opportunities are available outside. Please make sure you participate in lunch. If you don't have your coupons, the ushers are on standby to make that available. So I'm sure it's a good time to give ourselves a standing ovation. Thank you so much for being a part of today. And we thank God for a successful program. Journey mercies for all of you. Till we meet again next year for another MoMo Stakeholder Forum. Enjoy the MoMo season. Have a good afternoon.
You know, because I don't. Also, Jawa Mama cause financial loss to this company.
But boss, also thanks us here did too much. Makato say mugus no mabana so many at.
Shut up. Hey, 50 time I'm a back picking or to do lorry station. Now to say Adunle and the Shoyafun. And then waiting the other table. Now, get this trainer mess. Make sure that BB free and I will sack you. I'm not joking. Hurry up. Hurry up.
My chicken in now.
Shut up and hurry up.
Hello?
Good afternoon. Yes, my name is Peter Nyameche, calling from the MTN office.
MTN, I didn't know more friend.
Please.
Abotari. Now can we share that in you? Me paucho. Why? Ye country na yen kone kama.
Why? Oh, won't you phone? Me paucho. The TN say, we good news now. Yes, MTN 4 running promotion. And now we na baneka ho. And ewiye no wonaba no ne edin kunim enti ye maw 1,000 Ghana cedis eye titis kano 10 million.
10 million. Me bacha be wa ha o me tie o.
Madam, na ansa na ye dis kana beto mu account nim no. Je won sembise bi no pese ye bisa o. Se wotimi yi ni na no an ye dis kana to mama.
Me bacha yo me wa ha.
Me bacha dey kan o full name.
Amabuatima.
Amabuatima. Okay, nice. Yes. About your date of birth, no?
That's your MTN.
MTN, no?
MTN, dear, send me dim or send me date of birth to swim.
Once I confirm draw soon. MTN, you see a boy or no? Send a bill be to me, you
okay. My date of birth near 1st January 1987.
Welcome to the MTN MoMo self-defense class. Attention in class. Now listen, these fraudsters, they think they are so smart, but it's all Azar and Magadre. MTN will only call you with 0244 300,000. MTN will only invite you to the head office if you have participated and won in a promotion that MTN is running. So when you receive any such suspicious calls, call 100. Remember, stay safe, stay vigilant.
Nankawi,
Dial star 170 hash. Select option 6, wallet, and option 4, report fraud. You can also email mmfraudteam.gh@mtn.com and you can call 100 for subscribers.
MTN